Live is up.
PC recording has started.
Recording has started. Dr. Perez, you may start with the opening.
Good morning. Welcome to New York City Council's remote subcommittee hearing on zoning and franchises. Everyone, please turn on your videos at this time. Silence all electronic devices. All written testimony can be submitted to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Again, that is landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Thank you. Chairman, we're ready to begin.
Thank you so much. Good morning. I'm Councilman Francisco Moya, Chair of the Subcommittee on Zoning and Franchises. I'm joined remotely today by Council members Ayala, Reynoso, Grodenchik, Borelli, and also we are joined by Council members Eugene and Yeager. I would like to first note that the Court Theater Zoning Text Amendment and Special Permit Proposal listed on today's agenda under LUs 712 and 713 are being laid over. Today we will be holding public hearings on a number of new applications. Before we begin, I'd like to recognize our subcommittee counsel to review the remote meeting procedures.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair Moya. I am Arthur Ha, counsel to this subcommittee. Members of the public wishing to testify at this subcommittee were asked to register for today's hearing. If you wish to testify and have not already registered, we ask that you please do so now by visiting the New York City Council website at www.council.nyc.gov to sign up. Members of the public may also view a live stream broadcast of this hearing at the Council's website. When called to testify, individuals appearing before the subcommittee will remain muted until recognized by the chair to speak. Applicant teams will be recognized as a group and called first. Members of the public will be called and recognized in panels in groups of up to 4 names at a time. When the chair recognizes you, your microphone will be unmuted. Please take a moment to check your device and confirm that your mic is unmuted before you begin speaking. There is a slight delay in the unmuting process. Public testimony will be limited to 2 minutes per witness. If you have additional testimony you would like the subcommittee to consider, or if you have written testimony you would like to submit instead of appearing here before the subcommittee, you may email it to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. Please indicate the LU number and/or project name in the subject line of your email. During the hearing, council members with questions should use the Zoom raise hand function. The raise hand button should appear at the bottom of your participants panel. Council members with questions will be recognized in the order of raised hands, and Chair Moya will then recognize members to speak. Witnesses are reminded to remain in the meeting until excused by the chair, as council members may have questions. Finally, there will be pauses over the course of this meeting for various technical reasons, and we ask that you please be patient as we work through any issues. Chair Moya will now continue with today's agenda items.
Thank you, Arthur. I now open the public hearing on preconsidered LU items for the 42-01 28th Avenue rezoning proposal under ULURP number C190517 ZMQ and number 190518 ZRQ. Relating to property in Councilmember Constantinides' district in Queens, the proposal seeks a zoning map amendment to change the R5 to an R5 C12 district to an R6A and an R6A C12 districts, and a related zoning text amendment to establish a mandatory inclusionary housing area utilizing options 1 and 2. The proposed action would facilitate the development of a new 8-story mixed-use building with 54 dwelling units, 16 of which will be affordable, as well as ground floor commercial use. Council, if you can please call up the first panel for this item.
The applicant panel includes Nora Martins, Land Use Council, appearing on behalf of the applicant, Christopher Vlasich on behalf of the restaurant applicant, and Nellie Minella, the project architect. Panelists, if you have not already done so, please accept the unmute request in order to begin to speak.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for having us here, Chair Moya.
Before you begin,
This is Nora Martins.
let me just stop you just really quick. I just wanted to make sure, Council, if you could please administer the affirmation.
Panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this subcommittee and in answer to all council member questions?
Yes.
Great, thank you. We have received your slideshow presentation for the proposal. When you're ready to present it, please say so, and it will be displayed on the screen by our staff. Slides will be advanced when you say next. Please note that there might be a slight delay in both the initial loading and the advancing of slides. As a technical note for the benefit of the viewing public, if you need an accessible version of this presentation, please send an email request to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. That's landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. And now if the panelists would please restate your names and affirmation for the record, you may begin.
Good morning, Nora Martins from Ackerman LLP, Land Use Council for this project. Good morning, Chair Moya and council members. Thank you for having us here today. If we can get the slide show up on the screen now, that would be great. Thank you. So I'm joined today by Christopher Vlasic from the applicant and the owner of the family restaurant that's located on the site now, and also by Nellie Hennessy from Caliendo Architects, project architect, in case there are any questions that she can help answer. The application involves the block fronts along 28th Avenue between 41st and 43rd Streets and Community Board 1 in Queens. Will facilitate the redevelopment of the existing Piccola Venezia restaurant site, which has been operating in the historic community for nearly 50 years. Will allow the construction of a new mixed-use building with MIH, permanently affordable housing units, as well as bring several other existing multifamily residential buildings on the block closer into compliance with these zoning regulations. Just briefly, before I continue through the presentation, I'm going to turn it over to Christopher Vlasic to give a little background and history on their restaurant and the reason for this application. Next, please.
Good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes? Okay. My name is Christopher Vlasic, and my parents, Ezio and Juliana, opened this restaurant you see here, Piccola Venezia, at the corner of 28th Avenue, 42nd Street in 1973. And under my family's leadership, what started out as this small neighborhood trattoria soon blossomed into one of the most critically acclaimed restaurants in the city, and as many would say, synonymous with the Astoria neighborhood that we grew up in. In normal times, we employ about 30 full-time people, most of whom are local to Astoria and have been with us 20 plus years, even a couple since day one. The vast majority of customers that we serve are longtime regulars, and although they continue to be loyal, the restaurant has failed to attract the newer demographic of Astoria residents, which has replaced our longtime regulars. And having success in the restaurant industry has always been difficult, and we've seen too many empty storefronts appear where restaurants once stood because owners were hesitant to change and adapt to changing market conditions. We feel that the residents of Astoria are vital to our future success and what will ensure our viability for the next 50 years. Astoria is much a part of what makes Piccola Venezia special as our family, our staff, and our product. As you just heard, our plan is to temporarily relocate the restaurant within the neighborhood while redeveloping our property to bring a mix of new homes, including affordable, inclusionary homes, above the newly renovated Piccola Venezia. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. So next slide, please. You can see here, just have an aerial map showing a portion of the rezoning area, including the current location of the Piccola Venezia restaurant. 28th Avenue is wide street, 80 feet wide, and occupied by several approximately 50-foot tall residential buildings with FARs that far exceed the existing, what's permitted under the existing R5 zoning, which would allow a 1.25 FAR. Most of these are between 3 and almost 4 FAR. And further east are actually some even taller buildings. So in addition to facilitating the development of the applicant site, this rezoning helps to bring a lot of these other existing buildings, really reflects the existing conditions on the ground. Next. And this slide just shows the existing restaurant, photos of that. Next. Existing conditions on the north side of the street. You can see some of those pre-war residential buildings that don't comply with existing R5 zoning. Next. And again, just some additional photos showing that those existing conditions that on the sites we would be seeking to rezone that are not owned or controlled by the applicant. Next. In order to facilitate the proposed development, we're seeking two land use actions, the zoning map amendment from the existing R5 and R5 C12 zoning districts to R6A and R6A C12 zoning districts. Also seeking a zoning text amendment to designate the project area as a mandatory inclusionary housing area. As filed, the application includes options 1 and 2, but after consultation with the council member and also with Councilmember Constantinides and also with Community Board 1, we've agreed to modify the application to only propose option 1. Next. This slide is a rendering of the proposed development. You can see on the ground floor the new Piccolo Venezia restaurant and then residential above. The proposed development would have just under 45,000 square feet of residential floor area with 51 dwelling units, of which 13 approximately would be MIH units. Option 1. Option 1 is, just as a reminder, although I know the council is very familiar, is 25% of the floor area at an average of 60% AMI or less. And then the commercial space would be occupied by the restaurant, approximately 7,000 square foot upgraded space. The last element of this proposed development is parking. There will be 66 parking spaces. Only 19 are required for the residential development. 47 of the parking spaces are permitted, which does exceed the minimum required. However, in this neighborhood and based on, the Vlasic family's experience running a restaurant here and also the feedback from the community board, the additional parking is much needed in this neighborhood and will alleviate any parking burden on the surrounding streets. Next. Here's a site plan, which just helps illustrate how the building is sited on the site and where the parking would be. Some of it will be open and some will be at the cellar level. Next. One other interesting element of this project is the sustainable urban rooftop garden, which would, be a green roof, which is great for environmental purposes, and will also be an urban vegetable garden for Piccolo Venezia. Interesting concept that I think is definitely part of bringing the restaurant into the new century. Next. This slide shows the proposed affordability mix, which is the unit distribution of the MIH units at the various rent levels to achieve the average of 60% AMI. Just for illustration, in addition to changing the MIH option, other changes to this project that have been made through the public review process and based on the input of stakeholders and council member Constantinides was to increase the number of larger units, the 2 and 3 bedrooms, and also to reduce the height of the building, which I think resulted in the rendering that you saw earlier, from 8 stories to 6 stories, which is contextual with the surrounding development, and we think results in a building that works on this corner. That, next. Yeah, that concludes our presentation. Of course, we're all happy to answer questions.
Great, thank you so much. I just got a two questions real quick. If you could, can you just say what are the relocation plans for the restaurant that you're currently operating on site, if at all?
Christopher, do you want to speak to that?
Yes, we have been actively looking for spaces, but also trying to time it with some reopening to indoor dining. We're currently not operating at all, as delivery, takeout, and outdoor dining is just not viable for us.
Right. Okay. And if you could, please, if you can confirm the applicant intends to utilize MIH option 1 for this development?
Yes, confirmed.
Perfect. That's all the questions for me. I now invite my colleagues to ask questions. If you have any questions for the applicant, please use the raise hand button on the participant panel. Council, are there any other council members with questions?
Moya, Councilmember Ayala has a hand raised.
Sure.
Hi, good morning. I have two questions. One, will the affordable housing unit residents benefit from any of the amenities in the building? And two, why did you opt out of developing any 3 bedrooms?
Well, in answer to your first question, yes. I mean, the MIH unit owners will have access to everything that the market rate tenants will have, including the rooftop, which, as you saw, will be a green roof with the urban vegetable garden. So that's a really nice amenity that will be available to everybody. And then there are 3 bedrooms in the, oh, I'm sorry, yes, you're right. There are no 3 bedrooms. It's a very small building, only 51 units. So I think 2 bedroom was the most that made sense in laying out the building. We did increase the number of 2 bedroom units from 17 in the initial proposal to 23 2 bedrooms. So, you know, almost half of the units are 2 bedroom.
Okay. Councilmember Ayala, did you have another question or?
I'm muted. Okay.
There you go. Sorry.
I try to mute myself in the middle so that you can respond. I'm in my apartment. You don't want to hear what's going on here. But no, I don't have any questions for now. I'll review it a little bit further, and if I have any questions, I can follow up later offline. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ayala. I want to recognize that we've been joined by Council Member Rivera. Council, do we have any other council members that wish to ask any questions?
No, Chair, I don't see any other members with the hand at this time.
Okay. There being no further questions, the applicant panel is excused. Council, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on the 4201 28th Avenue rezoning application?
If there are any members of the public who wish to testify on the 28th Avenue rezoning proposal, please press the raise hand button now.
We have Councilmember Ayala coming back for a question real quick. I'm sorry to the applicants. Did we still have them or did they lose them?
It appears that the applicants have been removed.
It's okay. Does anybody, I just wanted to ask about the community board, but I can get that information later.
I get it to you.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Members of the public wishing to testify on the 28th Avenue rezoning proposal are asked at this time to press the raise hand button, and the meeting will briefly stand at ease while we check to confirm members of the public. Chair, I see no members of the public who wish to testify on this item.
Okay. There being no members of the public who wish to testify on 4201 28th Avenue rezoning proposal under ULURP numbers C190517 ZMQ and N190518 ZRQ, the public hearing is now closed and this item is laid over. I now want to open the public hearing on preconsidered LU items for the 16th Avenue rezoning proposal under ULURP's number C20062 ZMK and N20063 ZRK relating to property in Councilmember Yeager's district in Brooklyn. The proposal seeks a zoning map amendment to change an R5 and an R5C22 district to a C4A district, and a related zoning text amendment to establish a mandatory inclusionary housing area utilizing options 1 and 2. The proposed action would facilitate the development of a 5-story commercial office building. But before we hear from the applicant, I would like to give my colleague, Councilmember Yeager, the opportunity to make some remarks if he has any.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As I typically do, I'd like to defer to the chair to run the committee and come back in afterwards if necessary, if there are anything that comes up from the applicant's testimony.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember. Council, can you please call up the first panel for this item?
The applicant panel includes Richard Lobel and David Rosenberg, Land Use Council appearing on behalf of the applicant, Jack Goldenberger and Isaac Lefkowitz. Panelists, if you have not already done so, please accept the unmute request in order to begin to speak.
And Council,
Council members, good morning.
Thank you. Good morning. Before you begin, Council, if you could please administer the affirmation.
Panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this subcommittee and in answer to all council member questions?
Yes.
Thank you. We are in receipt of your slideshow presentation for this proposal. When you are ready to present the slideshow, please say so, and it will be displayed on the screen by our staff. Slides will be advanced when you say next. Please note that there may be a slight delay in both the initial loading and advancing of the slides. Once again, anyone who requires an accessible version of this presentation may send an email request to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. And now, if the panelists would please restate your name and affirmation for the record, you may begin.
Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant. Should the rest of the panel state their names as well?
If they could, that'd be great.
David Rosenberg of Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant.
Is it just David and Richard?
I believe we have Isaac Lefkowitz is on as well.
Isaac Lefkowitz, Senior Vice President, Chartwell Pharmaceutical, the applicant.
Great, thank you. And now you may begin.
Thank you, Chair. Council members, good morning. Richard Lobel. Can you please start the presentation? So the rezoning here is the 16th Avenue rezoning. As was stated in the introduction, this rezoning would allow for a 5-story commercial building to be established at the applicant's site. The rezoning would allow for the current R5C22 zoning to change to a C44A, which is an R7A residential equivalent. Next slide. This is a little bit of a background with regards to the rezoning. Chartwell is a full-service manufacturing, packaging, and supply chain service organizations with decades of experience in the pharmaceutical industry. Currently, the applicant's operations are spread between several locations, including in Conyers, New York, and Rockland County. There's also office location in leased space along 16th Avenue. So really what this does is it's twofold. It allows for the applicant to consolidate and allow for existing workers, many of whom live in the surrounding Borough Park area, to work close to home. And importantly, it allows for employees who are currently commuting roughly 2 hours to the Rockland County location to work in Borough Park as well. With regards to the employment at this site, the 35 existing employees would be added to. There'd be about 50 additional employees. This applicant has been searching for a site for a number of years, starting in 2015. And at the time of purchase, the development site was occupied by 2 commercial tenants. There is no longer a residential tenant here. So this is an available development site. Next slide. So immediately what's to note about this rezoning is that there are some higher density districts in the area of the rezoning. There's R6A immediately to the south. There's R6 to the north. And importantly, there's a C81 district immediately across the street. The C81 district being an intensive commercial district, which is primarily utilized for auto-related and other intensive commercial uses. So a C44A here was seen to be a particularly appropriate zoning district. Next slide. You can see here the C44A would be drawn back 100 feet from the site, and the R5 district would maintain the remainder of the space within the rezoning beyond the 100 feet. You can see the applicant's site here highlighted in red. It is a relatively small site with existing long-standing and deteriorating 3-story buildings. Next slide. So this is the land use map, and this kind of shows what the situation is on the ground. You can see that there is commercial and community facility use immediately in and around the area of this property. You'll notice that there's an area shaded in blue to the south of the site. This is the police precinct. Obviously, a lot of activity at this spot. And with regards to the land use in general, the C44A has an R7A residential equivalent, which would allow for a 4.6 FAR residential building. In Brooklyn, in previous rezonings that we've brought before the council, this has been a tested and accepted methodology when you have a site which is on a wide street or, in this case, an 80-foot wide street, one which is a major thoroughfare in the area. City planning and the council have seen appropriate to rezone not only to R7A, but even upwards of R7A at R8A and above. So we think that the bulk here is appropriate. The commercial use, as Councilmember Yeager knows, and as we've discussed at the community board and borough president, has been an issue and one which we're working with regards to the local area. Next slide. So we've included pictures from the existing site and from the surrounding area. You'll notice the police precinct immediately adjacent to the area. And you'll notice on the lower left corner, the existing building. To note, the 3-story building right now is built out to roughly 10,000 square feet. The applicant's proposal here is only for between 16 to 17,000 square feet. So this is not really a rezoning which is seeking a tremendous gain as far as bulk is concerned. It's a very reasonable building with regards to bulk. You could go to an existing building of 4 stories in the existing R5, and you can, the proposal is for a 5-story building. It's a very reasonable building. Again, the primary goal here is to allow the applicant to locate his commercial operations within this site, and also to allow for local residents who live in and around the Borough Park area to commute to and from this site and to make this a lot more of a consolidated operation. Please page through the remaining photos, which again just provide different angles of the police precinct and the surrounding area. The zoning change map is again really critical here. You can see the existing R5 with the C22 overlay. The R5 C22 would be scaled back so that there would be a C44A within 100 feet of 16th Avenue and an R5, solely an R5 beyond. Next slide. So again, this just really denotes the zoning calculations, what we've discussed already with regards to the proposal and an FAR of close to 4 for the commercial use at the site. Next slide. And now we come to the plans, and I think the one thing I would note with regards to the plans and if you can page through the plans, they're extensive and they show a typical office building. But I would note that with regards to the site plan and with regards to operations at the site, one of the issues that was primarily raised by the community board was with regards to parking and with regards to congestion generally and what would happen to this site. So the applicant went back to the drawing board and was able to pencil out parking both on the ground floor and in a cellar of the site. This is at an additional cost to the applicant. The applicant is accepting of this because the site is so critical to their operations. It's so important for them to be able to allow for local employment, to allow for these workers in this area to be able to work at a site close to home. So again, you can see from the front elevation here, this is the sum of the proposal. And I note that the community board did issue a determination against this application. We have been in communication with them constantly in the last several weeks, and we actually hope to be back before them so that we can discuss with them the revisions to the proposal, and hopefully through that and through more discussions, gain a vote approving this matter. And I've got the entire applicant team here. We'd love to answer any questions.
Great. Thank you, Richard. Before I turn it over to Council Member Yeager, I wanted to ask you just a couple of quick questions here. The community, sticking with the community board, dealing specifically with the commercial use, they expressed concerns regarding the impact of traffic and parking from this application's proposed commercial use. How do you respond to those concerns?
So, I would speak, and actually I would also defer to David Rosenberg, my colleague who was actually at the community board meeting when this discussion took place. I was at a conflicting community board meeting that evening. We think that with regards to traffic and parking, there's really two issues to consider. The first, and congestion. The first is that the provision of 44 spaces below the building will immediately enable us to take some of the stress off the local street system and to provide parking for people entering and exiting the building. So this is kind of an important thing in that, to the extent that 16th Avenue is a widely trafficked thoroughfare, and to the extent that local residents were concerned, this immediately, and again, happy to do this because of the importance of this location to the business, this immediately takes pressure off that local infrastructure, despite the fact that from a zoning standpoint, the parking wouldn't be required. We're talking about quality of life, and we're talking about the ability to operate well going forward. The more important thing to consider though, and this was, sometimes meetings don't translate as well into Zoom. And so we weren't in the room and weren't able to really kind of show the local area exactly who was involved in this with regards to Chartwell, the fact that they are a local business, that their owners and operators live in the Borough Park area. We don't expect that the traffic and parking here is going to be the same as it would be for a site where you were having workers come from disparate areas of the city. This is a very local concern. And so we wouldn't even expect the parking to be 50% filled at any time. But with this extra capacity, with the fact that we achieved a negative declaration from environmental review with regards to traffic and parking, and with the fact that we expect there to be an overage of space available, all of this, we think, really bleeds into the fact that we're going to have a smooth operating facility and hopefully are going to be able to convince people in the area that that is the case.
Okay. The construction. So the community board also cited concerns regarding the disruption that would be caused by the construction of this development. Are there any plans for mitigating these disruptions, or engaging with local neighbors to keep them informed of the specific construction plans? And also, how would the applicant team conduct outreach to these neighbors?
I'll start just with kind of some standard discussion, and then maybe would throw it over to Jack for further discussion. With regards to construction going forward, this is a longstanding building in disrepair. We're anxious and happy to take the building down. We will, of course, abide by all Department of Buildings regulations and rules with regards to construction. But I think we're able here, given the fact that this is not a very large project, we're on a relatively shallow floor plate. It's not a complex construction operation. we look forward to be able to accomplish this in a straightforward manner. We're going to do clean construction. We're going to have the opportunity here, and we'll make an effort to reach out to our surrounding neighbors, make sure that there is ample notice, more than would be required under DOB regulations. So I don't know whether or not the applicant wants to add anything in that regard.
Well, the only thing that we wish to add, my name is Isaac Lefkowitz. I'm the Senior Vice President of Chartwell Pharmaceutical, the applicant, that we're also in close communication with the 66 precinct, where a lot of the traffic congestion is when off-duty cops come with their private vehicles to go on duty. We own another parking lot 2 blocks away, and we offer them to park their vehicles at no charge during the 18 months of construction period. So a lot of that will alleviate any congestion.
Okay. Just a couple more questions before I turn it over that deal with local hire and MWBE. Can you describe what your plans to ensure that MWBE and locally based contractors and subcontractors are going to participate in the development?
Well, we are committed to, we're actually already in pre-proposal with a local contractor that we have worked before on another project, and it's all local and local subcontractors that we intend to hire, including local architect, local engineers. They're all within the vicinity that have ample experience within the community.
And can you describe your plans for local hiring in construction? And how many local hires would typically be involved in a project like this?
So probably, you know, it's hard to project, but a 15,000 square foot building would probably encompass both between hard construction hire and soft construction hire, close to 100 people.
Okay. And can you ensure follow-up on the progress report to these commitments?
Absolutely.
Great.
And we'd be happy to work with Isaac and the council in order to ensure that.
Great. That's it for me. I'd like to now take the opportunity to turn it over to Councilmember Yeager for some questions.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief, and as always, I start with thanking the Chair for his diligence and his work in this project and doing the reviews necessary to get us to this point, and I'm very grateful. My questions are going to be limited because I've had the opportunity to be at the community board's public hearings. I've had extensive conversations with the applicants' attorneys over the last few days, and I'll reiterate in public what I've said in private. I typically do not support rezonings that lack the approval of my community board. And here, this is a double whammy because it lacks the approval of my community board and it lacks the approval of my borough president. And so now we're the third step in the process, and I typically don't support rezonings when they come with a double negative. The applicant has represented to myself and to the community board and now to this subcommittee that it intends to revise its the plans that it submitted and that it discussed with the community board, and it wants another another opportunity to have a conversation with the community board and possibly obtain its support. If that's the case, I'll be happy to reevaluate my support. But as things stand today, based on the same concerns that I heard at the community board hearing, which is the concerns of the neighbors concerning parking, Mr. Chair, as you indicated, construction, as you indicated, the lack of a smooth flow within what is primarily a residential area, as the borough president indicated, it's not something that I can support right now. But I leave the window, the door, and the back door, and the front door, and the side door, and every window in the building slightly open for the applicant to go back to the community board if it so chooses, have another public hearing, doing the same outreach that was done prior here to give the community the opportunity to come out, see the revised plans, hear the concerns of the community, and if the members of the community have so changed their minds, and if the community board recommends a change of its heart, then we can have that discussion at that time. And I just wanted to say that on the record to be perfectly transparent about what's been transpiring with this project for the last several days. And with that, I don't have any questions, Mr. Chair, and I'll yield back to you.
Thank you, Councilmember Yeager. Council, are there any council members that wish to ask the panelists any questions?
No, Chair, I don't see any members with questions at this time.
There being no further questions, the applicant panel is excused. Council, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on the 16th Avenue rezoning application?
If there are any members of the public who wish to testify on the 16th Avenue rezoning proposal, please press the raise hand button now, and the meeting will briefly stand at ease while we check to confirm for members of the public. Chair Moy, I see no members of the public who wish to testify on this item.
Okay. There being no members of the public who wish to testify on the 16th Avenue rezoning proposal under ULURP numbers C2000062 ZMK and N2000063 ZRK, the public hearing is now closed and the item is laid over. I now open the public hearing for LU items 714 and 715 for the 42-11 9th Street special permit proposal relating to property in Council Member Van Bramer's district in Queens. The proposal seeks a zoning text amendment and a zoning special permit pursuant to the amended text to include the project area within a new industrial business incentive area and to modify various floor area, height and setback and parking and loading regulations. These actions would facilitate the development of a 21-story building, which would include required industrial uses, commercial space, and ground floor retail. The development would also include 67 accessory parking spaces and 5 loading berths. We don't have any, Councilmember Van Bramer is not here. So with that, I would ask the council to please call the first panel for this item.
The applicant panel for this item includes Carlos Escobar, Jeff Nelson, and Emma Manson, who will be making the presentation today, as well as a number of additional team members who will be on hand to answer questions, including Michael Rem, Melanie Myers, Ellen Lehman, Carl Ordeman, Rachel Belsky, Adnan Pasha, Tim Roberts, Will Warren O'Brien, Brian Weinberg, and Andrew Mitchell. Panelists, if you have not already done so, please accept the unmute request in order to begin to speak.
Okay. Once everyone's ready, council, if you could please administer the affirmation.
Panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this subcommittee and in answer to all council member questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. When you're ready, when you're ready to present your slideshow, but we need to get somebody to mute themselves for a second there. Okay. Thank you. When you're ready to present your slideshow presentation, please say so, and it will be displayed on screen for you by your staff, by our staff. Slides will be advanced for you when you say next. Please note that there may be a slight delay in both the initial loading and the advancing of slides. As a reminder, members of the viewing public seeking an accessible version of this presentation may send an email request to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. And now, if the panelists would please restate your name and affirmation for the record. you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Moy. I'm Jeff Nelson with RXR Realty. I think we can put the presentation up. Ready? So I lead public-private partnerships for our organization. Just to introduce the other folks on the team you'll hear from, Carlos Escobar from Titan Machine Corp. And Emma Manson, also from RXR. This project in Long Island City is a partnership between RXR and Titan Machine Corp., which is a long-time Long Island City business. So first and foremost, I'd like to turn it over to Carlos to introduce himself and Titan. Next slide, please.
Thank you, Jeff. My name is Carlos Escobar. I'm the president of Titan Machine. It's my favorite slide. You can see the resemblance between me and my father, who started the company back in 1973. And ever since, we've been in the neighborhood, so nearly 50 years now. Titan is a manufacturer of elevator parts, and we also repair and refurbish them. We like to think of ourselves as the company that builds and repairs all the parts of the elevator that you don't see as a passenger. So we've been in the neighborhood for roughly 50 years, since 1973, and a lot has changed, of course, particularly with manufacturing. And we know that we need to make some investments in our company in order for us to continue to flourish. So we've been lucky enough to find a partnership with RXR, a company that shares our commitment to investing in the neighborhood and not just preserving, but expanding the industrial character of it. A neighborhood that's been so good to me, my family, and our employees. So we've spent much of the last 2 years discussing with our neighbors and members of the community and getting feedback from them about the project. And you're going to hear a lot about how we've incorporated that into the development. I'm going to let Jeff and Emma, who will be on shortly, to talk more about those details. But ultimately, we believe this project creates a mixed-use industrial office building that preserves and expands the neighborhood's industrial character, creates thousands of temporary and permanent jobs, and also strengthens the local economy, not just during the COVID recovery, but hopefully the sustained growth that follows. It also, of course, allows us to leverage the value of our property, reinvest in our company, and become the company we'd like to be going forward. So with that, I'll turn things back over to Jeff and Emma, who could walk you through the rest of the project.
Next slide, please. So just to touch on RXR for a second, we're a 500-person vertically integrated firm. We've been in the New York area since the mid-20th century, RXR and its predecessors. We have a singular focus on the New York area. We control about 25 million square feet of commercial property, and that ranges from midtown office space to outer borough industrial space. We're particularly proud of our work in public-private development, partnerships, and projects that deliver on policy and programmatic goals for our partners, including, folks like Carlos and Titan. We've been in New York for a long time. We continue to believe in the diversity and opportunity of the New York region, and that's particularly true in Long Island City. Even in the midst of COVID, we think ultimately that this pandemic will accelerate some of the demand we've seen for hybrid workplaces and a more distributed model for companies, particularly as folks try to stay off the subways, have walk-to-work opportunities, and so on. And with that, I'd like to turn and talk a little bit about the project specifically. So on the next slide, please. The project is located at Queens Plaza South, between 9th and 10th Street. This is a current M14 zoning district. The site's about a 10 to 15-minute walk from the F at Queensbridge and multiple trains at Queensboro Plaza. It's also proximate to Queensbridge houses, and we're going to talk a little bit about the work we're doing with organizations associated with Queensbridge and the community there. The current building, which is owned and occupied by Titan, is about 1.5 stories, and it sits on a 50,000 square foot footprint. The building itself is about 45,000 square feet of industrial space and about 10,000 square feet of ancillary office space. Titan has about 20 employees on site today. Next slide. So the project, and we'll show you an image on in a moment, but the proposed project is a new industrial and commercial building. And to enable the project, we're here requesting approval under ULURP for the following zoning actions. The first is to implement the Industrial Business Incentive Area zoning program. IBIA is a policy initiative to spur development of new industrial and commercial space, and provides that for every square foot of industrial space that's constructed, a developer can build a certain amount of office space along with that. That industrial space isn't optional, it's required, and any tenants must be industrial users that fall within specific industrial and manufacturing zoning use groups. We're also requesting a special permit to allow the 6.5 FAR commercial industrial space. This is effectively a request to expand the permitted uses under the existing FAR at the site. There aren't any zone or height or massing changes requested. And then finally, we're also requesting some adjustments to load and berth requirements. On the next slide, you can see a rendering of the proposed project. So this is a ground-up development that's intended to bring both office and industrial space and jobs to the neighborhood. The base of the building, so the third floor, has the required industrial space that I just mentioned. This is about 70,000 square feet of space, so that would be over a 50% increase to the existing industrial space on Titan site today. The balance of the floors above the third floor are office space, about 270,000 square feet. In addition, some key design elements to touch on were incorporating widened sidewalks, a landscape open space with a public art component, and retail at the corner of 10th and Queens Plaza South to try and activate that corridor and improve the public realm, and additional improvements that Emma will speak to later. The resulting project will create about 1,500 jobs, increase the industrial space, and leverage community partnerships. I want to turn it over to Emma to dig into some more detail and also talk about those partnerships a bit more. Emma?
Great, thanks, Jeff. We can go to the next slide. So I'm going to go into a bit of detail about the project starting from the ground up. We thought it was helpful to have this ground floor plan because it really demonstrates how this zoning and the building is designed to combine two different uses, industrial and commercial, and improve the public realm and integrate into the neighborhood. So what you see at right is the ground floor. The street at the bottom, or the green spaces, is 10th Street. The top is 9th. What we've done here is separate the industrial and commercial lobbies, with the office lobby on 10th and the industrial lobby on 9th. The blue spaces you see here are industrial space, and the purple space is a permitted retail space, which we're hoping can be, some food manufacturing, something that's open to the street or the plaza, or potentially something that's connected to the industrial space. We also worked in depth with our design team to come up with a smart parking and loading solution for the property. So at the left-hand side, you see the gray portions. This is interior parking and loading. There are 67 parking spots in the basement of the building, which are accessed by a ramp on 9th Street. There are also 5 interior loading docks that provide head-in and head-out loading, which reduces the amount of time that any truck will spend on 9th Street trying to get into the building. The building also includes 43 bike parking spaces on the ground floor. And as Jeff mentioned, there is landscape public space on 10th Street, as well as landscaping improvements on Queens Plaza. This building replaces a very traditional, old school, closed to the street, one-story industrial building with something that has ground floor transparency. You can see into the spaces. There's new lighting, landscaping, and we're really excited about the opportunity to have some public art on the plaza space that we're looking forward to partnering with a local nonprofit or arts organization to select something that really demonstrates the vitality of the neighborhood. On the next slide, we included a stacking plan, which we think really demonstrates the opportunity with this IBIA zoning to combine different uses and create jobs. So as Jeff noted, the bottom 3 floors are the required industrial podium, shown in blue. That's 70,000 square feet of real industrial space. It's designed to different specs than the office. It has heavier floor loads, higher ceilings, and 2 dedicated freight elevators. The floors above that, from 4 to 21, are office space. So altogether, this is a job-generating project. As Jeff said, it creates around 1,500 permanent jobs compared to those on site today. Of those, around 300 to 350 will be industrial jobs. And what's really something we're excited about is that this project brings not just more industrial jobs to the existing Long Island City IBZ, but it also brings around 1,200 office jobs to a business district outside Manhattan. And around 80 to 85% of office jobs today are still concentrated in Manhattan. And we think this is a really exciting opportunity to have those be more accessible to our neighbors in Long Island City. The other thing of note is that this is a project that is squarely in line with the mayor's 100,000 jobs plan and a 10-point to kind of benefit and grow the unique mixed-use character of Long Island City, which is identified as a core strategic area in both of those. On the next slide, please. As Carlos mentioned, we've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years speaking with our neighbors and the community members on how this project can be an economic opportunity for the neighborhood. And as long-term members of the neighborhood and partners, RXR and Titan are very focused on making sure that this does create those opportunities. We've already developed strong partnerships to connect residents to the construction jobs created by the project. So as Jeff mentioned, we've been working closely with some Queensbridge-based organizations on 2 programs we're very excited about that provide transferable skills and a direct skills-based access to jobs on our site. The first, with Urban Upbound, is a recruitment, coaching, and training program for 100 residents that results in OSHA certifications and training. With LaGuardia Community College and Jewel and the CUNY system, we're working on a construction skills training program that will result in credentials and a pretty intense training program in electrical and plumbing trades. And then we'll all be working with On Point Security, which is a worker co-op based out of Queensbridge to provide job site security. We've also heard from the community and are well aware that many of the most exciting jobs here are the permanent jobs, and those are jobs that are created by our tenants. So we've already started to discuss longer term partnerships with local organizations to think of strategies and ways that we can connect the community to jobs created by our tenants. Some of these are slightly earlier because we're closer to construction than to having a building leased up. But with LaGuardia Community College, we've been excited to discuss opportunities based on their existing expertise. And we're also looking forward to having further discussions with additional local organizations like the Settlement House and Sunnyside Community Services. We're also happy to be working with 32BJ on the building maintenance and service jobs. So on the next slide, we'll just leave with a brief summary and then are happy to take questions. This is a 100% commercial site in Long Island City. It's a new building that provides best-in-class new industrial and office space to this diverse, dynamic neighborhood in Queens. It has new construction, high-quality industrial space that increases what's available today. It's designed for a mix of uses and to really benefit the entire neighborhood, not just the users in this building, with improved public space, ground floor retail, public art, lighting and landscaping. We've worked very hard to develop strong community jobs partnerships and have benefited from very helpful input and connections with our neighbors at Urban Upbound, at the Queensbridge houses at LaGuardia Community College. And we're excited to be a partnership between a longstanding local business and a development team that are very sensitive to community needs. And with that, we really thank you for your time and having us here today and are open to questions.
Thank you. So how do you plan to respond to the community board's conditional approval that the applicant set aside 10% of the industrial floor area within the project at a discounted rate?
We've
mute Jeff.
There we go. I was waiting for them to allow me to unmute. Thank you. So we understand the community board's concerns and requests. We were happy that they issued a positive recommendation for this. I think Council Member Chair Moya that we're optimistic we'll be able to address their requests and are in conversations with the council member to reach a resolution on that.
Okay, and how do you respond to the VP's conditional approval that the applicant hire workers at a prevailing wages?
So as Emma noted, on the permanent side, we'll be working with 32BJ, and then on the construction side, we open our project up to opportunities from all firms and contractors, but we're very proud, for instance, of the union participation we've had on other projects. that we've undertaken in the city.
Would this be open shop?
It'll be a mix, most likely. There'll be opportunities for firms across the board. On prior projects, we've been able to achieve a fairly robust union participation and would hope to do so here as well.
Right, but that would be an open shop, correct?
That's right.
It's not a mix. It's an actual open shop.
Say again? Sorry,
So
I didn't hear
it's
that.
not a mixture. It's an open shop, correct?
Yeah, the bidding is open to a variety of firms, so you could consider that an open shop project.
I just wanted to make sure that you were being clear there. Okay, so it's an open shop. And just lastly, can you provide any more detail on the workforce development plan that you outlined for this project?
Sure. So on the construction jobs front, there are two programs, kind of centerpiece of the workforce development. One is a recruitment and training program in partnership with Urban Upbound that focuses on doing outreach, intake, interview prep, and some OSHA skills training with 100 residents of the Queensbridge houses. So they'll get their 8-hour OSHA card, 2-hour drug and alcohol training, fall prevention. They'll graduate with those cards, and we'll be timing that training so that by the time they have those, which are transferable skills, they're not obligated to work on our job, that they'll be available for participation. And we are going to work with our contractors to make sure that they make opportunities available. The second prong of this program is a 30 residents, also with a priority to Queensbridge with LaGuardia Community College, that gives them an opportunity to attend LaGuardia's existing Plumbing 1 and Electrical 1 program classes. So those, and I always mix up the hours, but one is 150 hours and one is 160 hours of hands-on training at LaGuardia in their electrical and plumbing labs. They'll get all materials, lab time, textbooks. They graduate with NCCER cards in both those trades, as well as OSHA cards. And again, the idea here is that this is these participants a real set of skills that will enable them to get, be competitive, and not just on our side, but on others in the future. And we were excited to work with both of those groups, obviously, because they are real anchors in the community and have an excellent track record of providing these services.
Got it. I'm sorry, this is the last one. What kind of tenants do you have in mind for the required industrial portion of the site?
Yeah, it's a real mix, and we're drawing here on our experience, both operators of mixed-use buildings like the Standard Motor Products on Northern Boulevard and Stara Lehigh in Queens, in Chelsea, but also on the diversity of manufacturing businesses that are in the city today. So I think, great comps are the types of businesses that are at the Brooklyn Navy Yard or at the Brooklyn Terminal. But it is, there's, as Jeff mentioned, a specific set of uses that are required by the IBIA zoning. So it is very much light manufacturing, things with a production component hands-on.
Okay. That's it for me. I now invite any of my colleagues to ask questions. I'm going to ask our council to see if any council members have any questions for this panel.
No, Chair. I see no members with hands raised for questions for this panel.
Great. There being no further questions, this panel is now excused. Council, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on the 42-11 9th Street special permit application?
Yes, Chair Moya, there are approximately 11 public witnesses who have signed up to speak. For members of the public here to testify, please note again that witnesses will generally be called in groups of 4. You are a member of the public who has signed up to testify on the 4211 9th Street special permit proposal. When you hear your name being called, please stand by and prepare to speak when the chair says that you may begin. Please also note, once all panelists in your group have completed their testimony, you will be removed from the meeting as a group, and the next group of speakers will be introduced. Once removed, participants may continue to view the live stream broadcast of this hearing at the council's website. We will now hear from the first panel. The first panel will include Maria Free, Charles Yu, Elizabeth Luskin, and Hannah Weinstock. The first speaker will be Maria Free. followed by Charles Yu.
Thank you, Arthur. I just want to give a reminder to members of the public. You will be given 2 minutes to speak. Please do not begin until the Sergeant at Arms has started the clock. And with that, Maria, whenever you're ready, you may begin.
Your time starts now.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Maria Free, and I'm the Urban Planning and Policy Analyst for the New York Building Congress. On behalf of the Building Congress, we are proud to support RXR and Titan's mixed-use proposal for 42nd 11 9th Street. At a time of unprecedented economic crisis in our city, this proposal to create thousands of jobs for the residents of Long Island City is critical. The Building Congress has, for 100 years, advocated for investment in infrastructure, pursued job creation, and promoted preservation and growth in the New York City area. Our association is made up of over 550 organizations comprised of more than 250,000 professionals. Through our members, events, and various committees, we seek to address the critical issues of the building industry and promote the economic and social advancement of our city and its constituents. As we strive to recover from one of the most severe disasters in New York's history, this proposal is the right type of investment for Queens to build back even stronger than before. In the short term, it will add hundreds of new, good-paying construction jobs for local residents, and the workforce programs ensure Long Island City residents will benefit from these employment opportunities. Once the building opens, the site will also be a hub for over 1,000 permanent jobs. Moreover, this project will preserve manufacturing in the city, adding even more industrial area than what currently exists. By building commercial office space, RXR will be able to offer that industrial space at affordable rents. And in turn, industrial companies can employ New Yorkers in high quality jobs that provide a path to the middle class. In closing, this proposal is an opportunity to invest in economic recovery by creating jobs for Long Island City residents and strengthening the economy. The Building Congress strongly supports this project, and we encourage you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria.
The next speaker will be Charles Yu, followed by Elizabeth Luskin.
Your time starts now.
Hi, this is Charles, and I'll defer my testimony to the next speaker, Elizabeth Luskin.
So the next speaker will be Elizabeth Luskin, who will be followed by Hannah Weinstock.
Your time starts now.
Good morning, Chair Moya and members of the subcommittee, and thank you for the opportunity to address you today. I'm Elizabeth Luskin, president of the Long Island City Partnership, the local development corporation for LIC. A longer version has been submitted. This creative and responsible project partnering Titan, a longtime LIC industrial family business, with RXR, a creative commercial developer and owner, preserves and expands LIC's vital industrial footprint. This is not an easy thing to achieve given the economics of the market. LIC is one of the most productive areas of the state, providing essential goods and services to the region and providing family supporting jobs locally. As the industrial business service provider for the LIC industrial business zone, we provide one-on-one assistance. By far the most difficult issue facing industrial companies is finding available and appropriate real estate. A consequence of the evolution of LIC into one of the most dynamic mixed-use areas of the country has been the reduction of space available for industrial uses. We are also seeing an increase in highly creative but non-industrial companies seeking office space. New projects rarely add industrial space since the economics rarely work out. That in turn puts added pressure on the industrial rental market. This project actually expands industrial space by 55%. We're also a strong advocate for commercial office space in LIC. It creates a wide range of good jobs, but it's overwhelmingly concentrated in Manhattan. This project will allow Queens residents to better access good paying office jobs. The office component also makes the industrial expansion feasible. Unlike most new industrial space, this project won't receive public subsidies and instead relies on the office rents to provide space that is affordable to local manufacturers. If this project does not move forward, it will be a real missed opportunity to preserve the local manufacturing cluster and to grow the existing 21 jobs at the building to as many as 350 new industrial jobs and over 1,000 office jobs. This project is a real-life demonstration that the expansion of industrial space and creation of office space can together produce a market-viable project in Long Island City. As we look to recovery post-COVID, we need to encourage investments in our local economy. I'm glad to see two longtime supporters of the LICP working together on this project. This will be a great example of what is possible.
The last speaker on this panel will be Hannah Weinstock.
Your time starts now.
Hannah, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Excellent. I'm Hannah Weinstock, Senior Director of Workforce Development at LaGuardia Community College. And I'm here to speak a little bit more about the workforce development program that we've been working on with RXR in conjunction with this project. As you know, New York City's been hit very hard by the pandemic. And with communities of color, immigrant communities, Queens communities hit hardest by both the public health and economic crises. We have unemployment at an all-time high. And so here at LaGuardia, we are laser focused on helping people get back to work and train for jobs in areas that are going to be in demand in the future. Our electrical and plumbing programs represent just that. We're very excited to potentially work with RXR to train local residents, NYCHA residents, women, people of color, for careers in construction and for work specifically on this project. Our trainings are accredited by the National Center for Education and Research, NICER. So the students walk away not only with their OSHA 30 and site safety, but national industry recognized credentials in electrical 1 or plumbing 1. They're doing hands-on training as well as theory. They're building circuit boards, drainage systems, etc. We've run these programs for about 4 years now, and we have seen graduates, having a lot of success beginning their careers as electrical or plumbing helpers, apprentices, assistants, etc., and then moving up within a few years to junior mechanic positions. So, we're excited to make sure that there's access to these jobs and for local residents, NYCHA residents, and to be helpful as best we can in that. And we welcome any feedback or questions from the community board or the local elected officials.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Council, do we have any council members who have any questions for this panel?
No, Chair, I see no members with hands raised for this panel.
Okay. There being no questions for this panel, the witness panel is now excused. Council, can you please call up the next panel?
The next panel includes April Simpson, Ben Kubani, Brendan Levy, and Laura Calacurcio. First speaker will be April Simpson, followed by Ben Kubani.
Your time starts now.
Good morning. My name is April Simpson. Can you hear me?
We can hear you, April.
Yes. April Simpson. I'm former president of the Queensbridge Houses Resident Association. And on behalf of the residents of Queensbridge Houses and the existing 3 other housing developments in the area, we work very closely with Titan, longtime company in our community. I'm a longtime resident of Queensbridge Houses. I just celebrated a birthday, almost 60 years. I'm not going to tell you my age, but
happy birthday.
Thank you. We are so, we were all devastated by COVID-19. And before COVID-19, Queensbridge Houses and NYCHA residents were already devastated economically, and we need this opportunity. It's not just about jobs, it's also about training. And as for the residents, we are all in favor of this great opportunity. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, April.
The next speaker will be Ben Kubani, followed by Brendan Levy.
Your time starts now.
Good morning. My name is Ben Kubani. I'll be reading testimony prepared by Jonathan Bowles, Executive Director of the Center for an Urban Future, a think tank focused on creating a more inclusive economy in New York City. I'm testifying in favor of this project because New York City was facing a good jobs crisis long before the coronavirus pandemic, and I believe this project will pave the way for a lot of new good jobs, both in the manufacturing sector, which is still one of the most important sources of middle-income jobs for New Yorkers without a college degree, and also in the office sector, which now accounts for the overwhelming majority of well-paying jobs that are growing in the city's economy. Supporting manufacturing jobs today requires embracing innovative financing mechanisms like this one. In the last couple of decades, there have been only a few new industrial buildings developed in the city. But as much as I love the manufacturing component of this development, I think the new offices will ultimately create even more opportunities for living wage jobs for lower income residents. Right before the pandemic, 83% of office jobs in the city were in Manhattan. Growing more of these jobs in Queens and in the other 4 boroughs would lead to more jobs and internships for local residents and more training partnerships with local educational institutions. Some people don't think the office sector will help New Yorkers from lower income communities, but I don't think we have a choice. Where good paying jobs have been growing in the city, it's almost entirely been in the office sectors. That was certainly the case in the years before the pandemic, and it's absolutely the case now. Thank you. I yield my time.
The next speaker will be Brendan Levy, followed by Laura Colacurcio.
Your time starts now.
Good morning. This is Brendan Levy. I'm here on behalf of the Queens Chamber of Commerce and reading this on behalf of Tom Gretsch, our president and CEO. This is a time that we need to invest in Queens in order to spur economic recovery, preserve and expand the industrial space and create office jobs in Queens. So the Queens Chamber is happy to lend its support to RXR and Titan's proposal. We believe it's exactly the type of investment Queens needs to come back stronger than ever before. The Queens community has been disproportionately impacted by the pandemic, and our businesses are struggling. So we need to get behind impactful projects that support job growth, enliven and activate these neighborhoods. This project will create over 1,000 good paying office jobs, and they're accessible to Queens residents, which is a bonus. It also will provide a new home for Queens companies that are looking to grow and expand into modern space without having to leave the borough. It also includes 50% more industrial space than exists on the site today, which bucks the decades-old trend to the Queens rental market. There's a reason that almost nobody builds new ground-up industrial space. It's expensive and fetches lower rents than building an office or an apartment complex. So we're behind this project 110%. We commend RXR and Titan for exploring this new model for industrial preservation, and I hope it encourages more developers to follow suit. We're glad to see the project includes underground truck loading and parking, which can help address some of the congestion issues that might have been a concern to the community. Alongside with the new public open space, ground floor retail, and other streetscape improvements will be a welcome addition to the neighborhood. And all told, this will transform an outdated building with 21 employees into a new facility that creates 300 industrial jobs and over 1,000 permanent office jobs.
Time expired.
Thank you.
The last speaker on this panel will be Laura Colacurcio.
Your time starts now.
Thank you for the opportunity to testify on behalf of the Association for a Better New York. My name is Laura Colacurcio, and I'm the Vice President of ABNY, a nonprofit organization dedicated to the healthy growth and renewal of New York City's people, businesses, and communities. As ABNY focuses on the city's inclusive and equitable recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, we are eager to support projects such as this one that create opportunities for New Yorkers to access good jobs with livable wages that allow for career development and economic mobility and wealth. This is more important than ever given the disproportionate impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on historically low income and disenfranchised communities. These communities in all of New York City must continue to receive investment to ensure that the city will ultimately recover from the financial crisis. As proposed, RXR and Titan's mixed-use project in Long Island City will create more than 1,000 permanent jobs in Queens. The project will also create hundreds of construction jobs, and the developers have demonstrated their commitment to ensuring that Long Island City residents benefit from these opportunities through workforce development programs with local organizations like Urban Upbound that will provide certificate training to 100 local residents, 30 of which will receive more intensive training at LaGuardia Community College. This can make all the difference for members of the Queens community who have been impacted by the pandemic and are looking for work and training that allow them to develop a career. ABNY CEO Melvin Miller has personal experience seeing countless projects chip away at the industrial cores of Queens rather than strengthen them. It is rare to see a project that not only preserves but expands the space available for manufacturing and other industrial uses in this community. Additionally, unlike other projects, this is a unique development that does not involve government subsidized rent, but instead employs a new and innovative model to preserve industrial space by using the office space rents to keep the rent of the industrial space affordable. This project provides a means to protect Long Island City's maker's character, create more than 1,000 good jobs, and represents a much needed investment. For these reasons, Abney supports RXR and Titan's proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, are there any council members that have any questions for this panel?
Chair, I see no members with questions for this panel.
There being no questions for this panel is now excused. And Council, if you could please call up the next panel.
The next panel includes Mitchell Taylor and Seth Bornstein. First speaker will be Mitchell Taylor.
Your time starts now.
Good morning, Chair Moya and Land Use Committee. I hope everyone is doing well on this early wintry afternoon. The snow is coming. My name is Bishop Mitchell G. Taylor. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Urban Upbound, a nonprofit that began right in the heart of Queensbridge houses and now has expanded to a citywide footprint. Urban Upbound has been working with RXR Titan since 2018. When they first reached out to us to discuss workforce development and a partnership to change inner city communities, not from the outside in, but from the inside out, it was a welcoming conversation. Since then, the scope of our partnership has grown, and RXR has continued to support Urban Upbound's mission and work in the Long Island City community. Through Urban Upbound's workforce development program, we will, as others have already identified, we'll work with approximately 100 local residents, prioritizing Queensbridge residents who will receive OSHA training, fall prevention training, drug, alcohol awareness, other soft skills to support the praxis of work that will be upcoming in the future. Furthermore, we will also identify a subset of participants who will receive further training in the skilled trades from LaGuardia Community College. We are so excited to work with Hannah and her team to put together an innovative workforce initiative that will be second to none. RXR is working with its contractors to support our efforts in pushing local subcontracting and local minority subcontracting and local hiring. In addition to the workforce development program, Urban Upbound supports the incubation and growth of these local businesses and worker cooperatives. One of the worker cooperatives that we have launched was On Point Security, a Queensbridge-based worker cooperative. This company will be included in.
You can finish, Bishop.
Oh, I'm sorry. This local community cooperative will be providing local security to the project during its development. We're excited to see the potential partnership and investment in job creation here in Long Island City. Rather than building more apartments, this project will create thousands of new industrial and office jobs right here in Long Island City. So we applaud RXR and Titan, and we look forward to a long-standing, sustained relationship of community development. Thank you.
Thank you, Bishop. Always good to see you, my friend.
Likewise.
I'll let Pastor Young know I saw you today.
I will. Thank you so much,
All right.
Councilmember.
You take care. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
The next speaker on this panel will be Seth Bornstein. Seth Bornstein, who will be followed on this panel by Timothy Duval.
Your time starts now.
Hey, good morning. This is Seth Bornstein. I'm Director of Queens Economic Development Corporation. Our mission is to help the community through creating and retaining jobs, especially the focus on low and middle income communities, immigrants, minorities, and women. We support this project by RXR and Tyson because it really fits in everything we want to do. Creates a mixed use community, industrial and commercial, which is rare in this city these days. and also supports people who work there from the community, working with LaGuardia, working with Queensbridge, working with Urban Upbound. It's just everything a community project should be. So we really believe those jobs help the community and money will stay within the communities. It's also important that the project really fits into the context of the urban environment. And what they've done there on the community, on the streets there, is really a model for what can be done for other industrial development in the community. I don't want to reiterate so much what other colleagues in the panel have said, but it's a great project and a great model for other parts of Queens and the whole city. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to this project coming to fruition.
The next and last speaker on this panel will be Timothy Duval.
Time starts now.
Can you hear me? My name is Tim Duval. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Good. I've been a neighbor of Titan Manufacturing on 9th Street in Long Island City for 39 years. And we are good neighbors. They're a good resident company in this area. They help keep the area tidy and clean. They've cooperated us with issues like parking, and we're so pleased that the new building plans incorporate additional parking, which is the most critical thing in this part of Long Island City. Our building is a similar building to Titan Manufacturing in that it has a large footprint, but we intend to keep our building and keep it as it is because we think it has some historical importance, and it is the foundry. And it caters for events and for weddings, and we see no objection whatsoever for Titan Manufacturing coming to the neighborhood and expanding their business. We also like the idea that it keeps the industrial tone of the neighborhood, and we are totally for and support their application. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do we have any council members that have any questions for the panelists?
Chair, I see no members with hands raised for this panel.
Okay. There being no members of the public who wish to testify on 4211 9th Street special permit proposal under LUs under LUs 714 and 715, the public hearing is now closed and this item is laid over. Thank you to the panelists for your testimony today. I now want to open the public hearing for the pre-considered LU items for the 1620 Cortelyou Road rezoning proposal under ULURPS number C180496 ZMK and N18049 ZRK affecting property in Councilmember Eugene's district in Brooklyn. The proposal seeks a zoning map amendment changing an R6A C24 district to a R7D C24 district, and a related zoning text amendment establishing a mandatory inclusionary housing area utilizing options 1 and 2. These actions are intended to facilitate the development of a new 9-story mixed-use building with 85 dwelling units, including approximately 21 affordable units, ground floor commercial use, and accessory parking at the cellar level. I know that we have Councilmember Eugene on hand, and I just wanted to turn it over to the council member if he has any remarks before we hear from the applicant.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you so very much. What I would like to say, I know that this is a very important issue for the community, and there have been different sides, different opinions. And I know that the community wants to see deeper affordable housing also to conserve the market, the laundromat, and other services that exist in that building. And one of the things that I would like to express is to see the commitment of the developer to hire locally and to make sure that the people in the community who have the skill, the competence, they can have also the opportunity for jobs. The other thing also, I would like the developer to mention his commitment to buy certain construction supplies in the community also, to the construction companies, and to create job opportunities, and also to give the opportunity of business to the people in the community. I do believe that the community won't be able to provide everything that they need for this construction, but this is one of the things that I want the developer to consider, and this is very, very important for the community. But at this time, I don't have any special position, but I do want to hear, to listen what the developer is going to say. And I know that there's a report from the board president, and there is also a report from the community board 14. After, looking over all those reports and the different comments from the community, I will be able to take to have a better idea and to know exactly which way I'm going. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Eugene. Council, can you please call up the first panel for this item?
The applicant panel for this item includes Richard Lobel and Amanda Iannati, Land Use Council appearing on behalf of the applicant, Tony Dole for the applicant, and Victor Folletti, the project architect. Panelists, if you have not already done so, please accept the unmute request in order to begin to speak.
Thank you. Before you begin, Council, can you please administer the affirmation?
Panelists, please raise your right hands. Do you affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony before this subcommittee and in answer to all council member questions?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. We are in receipt of your slideshow presentation for this proposal. When you are ready to present the slideshow, please say so, and it will be displayed on the screen by our staff. Slides will be advanced when you say next. Please note that there may be a slight delay in both the initial loading and advancing of slides. Members of the viewing public can obtain an accessible version of this presentation by emailing requests to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov. And now, if the panelists would please restate your name and affirmation for the record, you may begin.
Thank you, Chair Moya. Richard Lobel of Sheldon Lobel PC for the applicant. Joined by Amanda Iannati from my office and representing Tony Dole, who is the owner and operator of the food market at the base of the proposed development. I think if these slides could begin right now, that would be great. I want to just start by thanking the council members and especially Council Member Eugene, who has been very thoughtful in his consideration of this matter, has sat down with us and really caused us to think about this proposal. What you see before you is a proposed rezoning for 1620 Cortelyou Road. Cortelyou Market, which is operated currently at 1620 Cortelyou, is operated by Tony Dole. And while we come before the council many times with applications from career developers, individuals who by right purchase a site and then proceed to do development, this is not Tony. Tony is a local operator of a food store who has been at the site and has operated a food store for over 25 years. This puts him in a unique position with regards to the community. While there were opportunities for him to sell the property and to move on, Tony wanted to do a development here which would accomplish several goals. The first would be to keep the food market, and we're going to discuss with you our opportunity to do so. The second would be to provide for additional residential units in the community, but also to provide for additional affordable units in the community, and importantly in Community Board 14, where these affordable units are few and far between. So with that, we begin the presentation, talk about the background of the zoning, and then the applicant team is happy to answer any questions. Next slide. You can see from the next slide is a copy of the zoning map. And to note with regards to the zoning map, and my screen hasn't advanced yet, but I have the presentation in hard copy before me. Chair Moya, can you see a zoning map right now or no?
Yep.
You can.
I got it.
For some reason it is not advanced on my screen, but I'm just going to proceed.
Okay.
The zoning map
And I
currently.
got a hard copy here, so you can go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. So page 2 of the presentation has a copy of the zoning map, which is notably the existing zoning is R6A with a commercial overlay. The R6A, as well as much of the surrounding area, was rezoned in the 2009 rezoning that was sponsored by the city, which rezoned roughly 180 blocks in the surrounding area. What this did was it fixed zoning at R7A with inclusionary housing, voluntary inclusionary housing, for many of the blocks you see south and east of the site. What it did not do was create any inclusionary housing. The City Planning Commission, in their recent report approving this rezoning, noted that no affordable housing was created pursuant to zoning in the voluntary inclusionary housing areas. So provision of inclusionary housing here is a worthwhile goal, and one which is not really populated by current buildings and current development sites. So the proposal would take this existing R6A and would rezone that to an R7D. Next slide. So the next slide has the tax map, which shows the lots included within the rezoning. These are 4 lots along Cortelyou, and then 2 lots, which would be rezoned to a minimal amount behind those. The R7D C24 would accomplish several things. In addition to the additional residential bulk, which would be at an FAR of roughly 5.6, there would be a commercial overlay of a C24. Now, importantly, in an R7D zoning district, the C24 commercial overlay mandates non-residential uses. So while an R7A C24 would allow for rezoning of potentially a mixed-use building, the R7D mandates that mixed use by requiring commercial or non-residential ground floor uses. This is very important because, as we will likely discuss with regards to the community board and borough president noted the importance of the food market at the site. Next slide. So the next slide is a copy of the land use map, and you can note several things from this land use map. As you would expect, Cortelyou, being an 80-foot wide road, is a major thoroughfare in the area. There are numerous commercial uses which are abounding within the commercial designated area along Cortelyou and the commercial overlay. You will note that there is a subway station within a block of the site. This is very important because, as city planning will tell you, there is an importance with regards to the accessibility of sites to local transportation. So in areas in Brooklyn previously where we brought rezoning applications on wide streets near public transportation with commercial activity, these are areas which are considered to be highly desirable for rezonings, allowing access to the site, allowing for a lively streetscape, and that's what would happen here. You'll also notice that to the south and east site, there are 6 to 8 story buildings that abound. These were codified by the most recent 2009 rezoning and our longstanding buildings. Next slide. So the next slide has a copy of the zoning change map. And the zoning change map takes what you see as an existing R6A C24 and would change that to an R7D C24. You'll note that if you look at the zoning change map, there's already a portion of the existing site which is within the R7A. That part is already zoned R7A. That part, is permitted to greater density, albeit it is a small amount. But basically, at this frontage here, there's limited options as far as what you'd be able to rezone to in order to have a productive building, in order to actually have a development that would move forward. Here, the R7D was chosen to be appropriate, given the history of rezonings in the area and Brooklyn, and the fact that you do want to, at the end of the day, have a development site as opposed to a site which would remain undeveloped and would have insufficient backbone in order to establish a building here. Next slide. So the next slide and the slides that follow it are the building plans. And I'd note several things in this regard because we have had conversations, many conversations with the community board, with the Brooklyn Borough President's Office, and now with city planning, all of whom in some form and with some condition have approved this rezoning. Importantly, with regards to the proposal going forward, there was a discussion with regards to the massing of the building. There was a rather large dormer on this corner of the building on 16th and Cortelyou. This was removed from the property. And so what you see is basically a pared down building. The building would maintain 44 parking spaces beneath the building. This is greater than what is required by zoning by roughly 50%. So zoning would require roughly 30 spaces, and the rezoning would produce roughly 44 spaces below the building. I would note, because I'm sure that there's a lot of comments and questions with regards to the application and with regards to the community board and council and borough president recommendations, that many of these comments were geared towards the operations of the premises, how the premises would look, maintaining an attractive streetscape and such. To just talk briefly, and not to talk for Tony because he's here and available for questions, but Tony has operated this property for over 20 years. In those 20 years, if you look at DOB violations on the site, while in the last 20 years there are boiler violations, relatively routine boiler violations for reporting, there is not one DOB violation that has been issued to the site in the last 20 years, which is an amazing statistic for a commercial building operating with over 13,000 square feet of commercial operations. The second thing I'd note is in the pictures that accompany this presentation and others, you can see that this is a well-run site. This is a clean site. The pictures that we inserted are random Google photos taken from the last several years. They show clean streets before the building. It's a well-operated commercial thoroughfare. We're really excited about the opportunities that Tony has to take a building which is currently 1 story and over 90 years old, and to put something productive up that will help the community, will allow for this food store to continue, and will provide benefits in the form of affordable housing. We would note here that there was a lot of concern over operations of the food store going forward. We've submitted plans and materials which demonstrate that we intend to phase the construction to allow for the continued operation of the food store. This is no small thing. We also had many comments with regards to employment. Tony employs over 30 people at the site, many of them from the surrounding area. And so this is a local job generator. It is heartwarming to hear testimony from individuals who came to the community board hearing and talked about the fact that this food store was the only place they had to go in the immediate area to provide for affordable food. There are other food stores in the area that are not affordable. This is something which is basically heavily utilized by the local area and allows for all different types of people to shop in this and to come here. So provision of the food store here, the ability to update this building, the ability to generate affordable units in a community district where over half of the households are rent burdened, where the rent burden is greater than the percentages in the city of New York and in Brooklyn. This Community Board 14, over 50% of homes spend more than 35% of their income on rent. So just the ability to add units when you don't have that opportunity, when previous rezonings, including the 2009 rezoning, failed to produce those results, this is a major opportunity, not only for our applicant here, but for the surrounding area. That's why we feel that we've gotten the support that we have. And that's why we feel that we are strongly urging the council to move forward on this. And of course, we're all happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you, Richard, for the presentation. Just a couple of questions before I turn it over to Councilmember Eugene. So in order to minimize and mitigate disruption, do you plan to conduct outreach and engagement with the neighborhood during construction? And if so, what are the strategies for that outreach? Can we unmute Richard? Hold on, Richard.
Now I can unmute. Okay.
There you go.
Thank you. Chair, yeah, and Tony's available to speak as well, but I would start by saying that I think there's 2 areas where we're particularly well suited with regards to outreach. The first is that Tony already has a tremendous amount of interaction with the local area, given his activities operating the food store here. So there's always communication, there's always dialogue. And that's, I think, one of the reasons that we received the support that we did at the community board. The vote of the community board was 24 in favor, 5 against. And again, while there are conditions to that resolution, we think that the fundamental support received is a testament to the fact that Tony is available and can talk to people in the area. So we would view the personal interaction and the ability to disseminate information locally to be a strength of Tony. And the other thing I'd say is that with regards to outreach, we've already spoken to local organizations. On the record of the community board, we discussed the fact that we'd reached out to Canva and had preliminary conversations with them about outreach to people in the area, including in terms of financial literacy for those who might want to avail themselves of the lottery system and to have affordable units within the building. So again, I would defer to Tony on that, but I think that, you know, that would be our goals going forward with regards to community outreach.
Tony?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. In regard to outreach, absolutely, I'm open as we always have been. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Tony. Thank you.
We're always open. We always have discussion with our customers. A lot of our customers are supportive of this project. I mean, they know how we operated there for the past 27 years now. And we always kept an affordable supermarket with all the changes that's coming from competition from Amazon and competition from online and all the different things that changed. But we always kept a supermarket there that's affordable for everyone. And this is what we're trying to do here, is to achieve this by having basically the building in top and the apartments in top to subsidize the affordable supermarket in the bottom. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, the way things are going, I mean, supermarket owners, if they don't get creative, is going to be very hard in the future to survive. And part of what we're doing here is to be able to survive and to stay there in the community for many years to come. So, our investment in the community there is truly to keep mainly the supermarket. We are basically grocers and supermarket, operators. We're not big time developers. But we thought this would be better than just selling the property to some developers who, believe me, I get 2-3 calls every day that they want to buy the property and redo this site. I don't know if they're going to keep the supermarket or it's going to be a very exuberant amount of rent that the supermarket will not be affordable anymore. So us as the building owners and as the supermarket owners, we are able to keep providing affordable prices at the supermarket. This is what we're trying to do here. I know there's some neighbors who would like to see this stay as one-story building forever, but this is a 90-year-old building that's becoming very hard to maintain also. So it's a construction and rebuilding need to be done at some point. Construction will not start right away. It will start definitely after the pandemic and its effect are way over, and because, at this point we understand, the supermarket need to be at its current condition and operating. So we will definitely wait until the pandemic and its effect on the whole world basically is over. So I'm open for any other questions that you.
So Tony, just a reminder, how many years have you been there? How long has the supermarket been there?
Since 1995. Us and the supermarket been there, previous years, but since 1995 we have done 2 times updated the supermarket, and we would like to have a bigger even supermarket than we currently have. So that the project will provide a bigger, more moderate supermarket with affordable prices. Continue affordable, as that's a promise from me and my family who owns the business with me. And we want to have affordable housing on top also, because also that's very much needed in the neighborhood. And this is after discussion with many people in the neighborhood, there's not much affordable housing, and we're doing this without city subsidy or any of that, and so.
I hear you, Tony. Thank you. Just a couple more questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to Councilmember Eugene. MWBEs and local hires. Can you describe what your plans are to ensure that MWBE and local-based contractors and their subcontractors are going to be participating in this development?
I'll start. It looks like Tony may be muted. So I think the answer is that, a couple of things. Tony is going to avail himself likely of tax abatement benefits, which would mandate the use of MBWE hiring with regards to the construction itself. Obviously not a tremendous job, but from what we've discussed internally, and again, Tony can address this, I understand that he is committed to using MBWE and local hiring with regards to the construction project going forward. I'd also note that importantly, there's lots of numbers that get thrown around with regards to actual employees at the site. One of the benefits that we feel of the application itself is that the 30 some odd employees that are currently employed at the food store will likely increase. The square footage of the food store would go up. This would now most likely be between 9,000 and 10,000 square feet. And so the opportunity for local hiring for permanent jobs beyond the construction is still very much present with regards to both the supermarket as well as for additional several thousand square feet of commercial space to be used for other retail. So again, we understand, and as is typically presented by the Brooklyn Borough President and others, that we would make a commitment to MBWE hiring going forward.
Okay, and just staying on that, you mentioned local hires. Describe the plan for local hiring in construction and how many local hires would typically be involved in a project like this.
Yeah, I think that what we would ask Chair Moya is that we submit this to the council, to the committee in writing, simply because when Tony and I have discussed this, he's recently engaged with professionals with regards to project management moving forward. And so we've had those conversations, but I think we'd be better prepared to submit those in writing.
But you don't have
unless Tony wants to answer at this point, he may be able to have some better answers.
Can we unmute Tony?
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely, I was saying that before, but I was muted. We are definitely open for local hiring and to give opportunity to local companies and local suppliers to submit their bids, and we are very much open. Absolutely. I mean, we part of the neighborhood, and we would like to give opportunity to everyone to benefit from this.
Right. No, I understand. I'm just saying, what are the actual plans that you have to do that? And on a project like this, typically you will roughly have an idea of how many local hires that would look like. So I'm just asking very basic, but
as far
specific
for the construction concern?
Yeah.
As Richard said, we will definitely, because I don't want to say numbers just off the top of my head. I will definitely submit a plan to the council shortly. And right.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, there's been plenty of time for you to have a plan in action for a project this size. So that's why I'm saying, you have no idea. You guys don't have a ballpark of what that would look like.
As far as the amount of jobs that
yeah,
create, let's say, yes.
Yes.
I'm sure it's over 60 jobs will be created in the construction.
Okay. I don't want to take up too much time because I know Councilmember Eugene wants to ask questions, but yeah, we'll follow up when you submit that in writing. And just the last question, what sustainability and resiliency measures are incorporated into the building's design and construction?
We will have solar.
Yeah, I think actually, Chair Moya, Victor Folletti, the project architect, is on. If we can unmute him, he can address some of the sustainability measures.
Yes, thank you. So yes, we are planning solar for the roof. We have tried to go beyond the building code requirements for being solar ready, and are looking into actually putting in the solar panels for the roof. All of the appliances and all of the equipment in the building will be used at the highest efficiency units that we can propose. And all of the required insulation values for the exterior walls and for thermal heat gain coefficients, it will all be far beyond the requirements for the building code. And just to get back a little bit with the hiring and the construction of the project, you know, we are dealing with an owner here, an owner operator of the facility. He is not a developer. So some of the means as to hiring locally, you know, he's giving you the information that he has available to him, that he would encourage that as the owner. But I think we need to get into the developing a little bit more as far as who the construction management will be. But from an owner's perspective and from an architect's perspective, we will do everything we can to hire locally during the construction. And the estimate of about 60 people being used during the construction is probably even a low number that I would estimate for a building this size.
Got it. Thank you. So we look forward to the submission from you guys in the days to come. All right. With that, thank you. I want to turn it over to Councilmember Eugene for his questions. Councilmember.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Let me say that this project is a very important project, and I think that the opinion has been very diverse and divided, as I said. But in terms of affordability, one of the problems in New York City, people always are complaining about they are affordable, but they are not affordable to everyone. Of course, so there is no way we can make it affordable to everyone. But my question would be to Tony or to representative, knowing that people are complaining some of the time or most of the time, you know, about the affordability of the apartments. Is there any way you're going to try to include more people? That means to give deeper affordability for those who are working every single day also, and those who are serving the community, but they don't have a high income. They have a very low income. Are you planning to do some effort to include also those workers, hardworking people who don't have a high salary to be part of this housing, affordable housing opportunity?
Good.
So I'll start, and I think Tony would answer. So thank you, Councilmember Eugene. So right now, the affordability and the option that was requested at the community board and at the Brooklyn Borough President was option 1, 25% of the units being affordable. And so the comments at the Brooklyn Borough President and at the community board were 2. The first was that they wanted a reduction in the number of units if possible, and an enlarging of the size of the units that were available, both for the affordable and for the market rate units. And Tony was happy to do that. We originally came in with a project upwards of between 85 and 87 units. It's been reduced to 80 units. The percentage affordable of those units is currently this option 1 at 25%. Obviously, 10% of the units would be at 40% AMI, which is considered to be low affordability. So we're happy to be able to provide that. With regards to anything beyond that, I think there's a couple of things to note. The first thing is that we've engaged Foresight Group, which is a renowned expert with regards to affordable issues, and they're currently modeling out the building, looking at the finances to see whether or not any deeper affordability can be provided. So Tony's made a commitment to provide what he's able to provide with regards to this project. The issue going forward is that the affordable supermarket here, which, there's no other way around it. This is a supermarket which allows for local people to buy affordable produce, dairy, bread, meat, etc. That acts as somewhat of a drain on the finances of the building. So one of the issues that Foresight has had with regards to modeling this out is that if you had an entirely residential building or the commercial on the ground floor was not a supermarket, it would be easier to expand the number of affordable units here. Right now, the margins with regards to adding affordable units and keeping the supermarket is very challenging. So we're working on it. It's something that we hope to work towards in the next several days. But for now, I think that we're committed to what's required, but also obviously in an area where you don't get a lot of affordable units at all, we're making a start. So again, we're trying to do the best we can. We're happy that the affordable units will mirror the market rate units generally in terms of the larger units of 1s and 2s. But that's where we are in the numbers.
Thank you very much. With respect to the food market, this is based on what people are saying. It seems that this is a common ground. Everybody in the community, they see the need to preserve and to protect the food market. And I see that you have the commitment to keep the food market, because especially for the senior citizen, and also because of the price, the affordability of the good that you are selling there. And with respect to the local jobs and also business opportunities, let me tell you, this is something that I'm very, very, very concerned about it. Not concerned about it, but I would like to see in all development in my district. And as a matter of fact, like in the Losning Theater and Kemba Garden, any project in my district, I always, urge the owners to create job opportunities locally, because as I mentioned before, there are many people in the community. They have skilled, they're hardworking people, but there's a need of jobs in my community, in the community. And then, creating jobs is something very, very important in a development like this one. And also the opportunity for those people who have construction businesses to have a subcontract, or the opportunity to have some businesses. Also, this is very, very important for a community like mine. And I know also some of the people, they have been talking about opportunities for youth. And especially, that the Tat Lot, a small park at the corner of Cotelli Road, they mentioned the desire to see a certain connection from Tony or from with the community board and others to continue to maintain the Tat Lot, the small park that is used by so many families and children in the community. Can you give us some ideas of your plan to collaborate with community board to maintain the Tat Lot, and also some opportunities that you may create for youth?
Thank you. And thank you, Councilmember Eugene, for the comment and for your continuing commitment with regards to employment in the area. With regards to the 2 points that you've made, number one of the reasons that we do love this application and love Tony as an applicant is because while there may be applicants and developers who clean up an application and clean up a property for this purpose, for going through ULURP, Tony has an operating history here and has continuously employed people from the surrounding community, upwards of 30 people from the surrounding community, and shown a commitment. So with regards to is maintaining that commitment to allowing for local hiring, and also, even in things as small as the local laundromat, when he heard that there were issues with regards to the local laundromat and the opportunity for community users to be able to continue using it as a low-cost laundromat, Tony spoke with the laundromat owner and committed to relocating that owner, making sure that he was able to operate during the pendency of construction. And we submitted that letter to the City Planning Commission. So yes, Tony is committed to local hiring. This is something which would continue. He's happy to make that commitment. With regards to the Tot Lot, the community board expressed, as did the Brooklyn Borough president at hearings, that this is a local concern. And Tony, in the interest of being a good neighbor and the fact that in addition to getting something, he's happy to give something, so has expressed his commitment to funding the Lieutenant Navarez Tot Lot on a going forward basis. As Tony's fond of telling me, he'll be, once this is an actual project, he gets funding, he gets financing, he's happy to do all of this. but particularly with regards to the tot lot, the opportunity to add green space to this area for both customers, residents, and everyone is something he'd love to do. So yes to both of those, council member.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Mr. Chair, thank you very much for the opportunity to ask questions.
Thank you, council member. Now I invite any of my colleagues who have any questions. Arthur, do we have any council members that have questions? I see
Councilmember Ayala has a hand raised for the panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I have a couple of questions and some concerns. Obviously, council members have already expressed an interest in the local hiring process. So if you could add to the report, how many jobs exactly, how many will be part-time, how many will be full-time, and are any of these expected to be union? That would be really helpful to us. And then I'm also concerned about the affordability of the units. There are 85 units, only 21 of which would be affordable. We don't have an idea of how affordable those will be. I mean, I'm assuming it's 40 and 80, which is fine, but you referenced several times in your testimony that in this community board, too many people are paying well above the 50% of their income on rent. And so that concerns me. You also mentioned that you added an additional 14 parking spaces. Have you considered the possibility of maybe foregoing some of those parking spaces so that you could accommodate more affordable units?
So thank you, Councilmember Ayala, for the questions, and it's good to be questioned by you for the first time at the subcommittee hearing. We will add all the materials that you requested to the report with regards to local hiring, the number of jobs, and et cetera. So I think I'd just address the affordability, and I'd also address the parking. It's interesting for me that the Flatbush rezoning in 2009, the City Planning Commission noted this in their recent report, that despite the fact that they created large areas of R7A zoning with voluntary inclusionary housing, which would allow for a bump up providing affordable housing, there were no units were created pursuant to that program. So I think that the numbers in this area, it's a challenge for affordable housing. And one of the reasons that we're happy that this project is moving forward. We don't want to give wrong answers, and we don't want to give answers that are going to be disingenuous. Tony's really committed here with regards to the affordability. He knows that it's an issue with regards to the community board for a president, with regards to Councilmember Eugene. So the study that he's looking at right now with regards to Foresight Group is penciling out option one. So it's penciling out the lowest affordability, and is penciling out, including 40%. Obviously, option one is going to average 60% AMI. But again, to the extent that we're able to expand those units, we're going to. Having said that, Foresight has initially found that the margins on the current project, if we want to put in a 10,000 square foot food store, are very small, what amounts to be less than 2%. So it's hard. And we're going to do the best that we can, and we're going to share all the information with the council and with Councilmember Eugene, but it is something we're working on. We would love to have the opportunity to provide less parking if that was going to translate into additional residential units. And I mean, Victor Folletti, the project architect, can address that. But as far as the push and pull is concerned, one of the issues that came up at the community board was that they actually were in favor of allowing for an overage of parking. The parking is all below grade. We can't put residential down there. Most of the utilities are going to be below grade or on the roof. So I don't think that we really have an opportunity to translate that parking. Normally, when we do projects that are primarily affordable housing, we know that parking is expensive. And so the opportunity to provide more residential units we're able to do that if we provide less parking. That's really not the case here. We're going to be going down anyway, so we're just going to be providing the parking. So again, it's something that we're working on, that we're thinking about. I think the important thing for us is that we actually have a development project going forward, one that provides what we say it's going to provide. So we're working towards that, and we do appreciate the thought, and we'll get back to the council with the additional information.
I appreciate the honesty. I think that for us, it poses a little bit of a challenge, right? Because rezonings are our real, and only opportunity to really ensure that you know, we're developing in a way that is smart and makes sense for future generations of New Yorkers. And, you know, we're really in the midst of a million pandemics, as you know, in the middle of a global pandemic, and housing, it continues to be a hurdle that we can't, you know, seem to work our way out of. Creating enough affordable housing units has proven to be really challenging in some boroughs, and that concerns me. 21 units is, you know, it's fine, but when you compare the fact that, you know, 64 of them will be market, then, you know, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't really add up for me. But I understand these projects have to get, you know, they have to pay for themselves, right? And so, you know, I really hope that some consideration is given to, you know, to adding additional units. Last question. I also see that 52%, 61% of the units are 1 bedrooms and 31% 2 bedrooms. And I see that that's kind of like a growing pattern. So I'm wondering, do we no longer have a market for 2 and 3 bedrooms? Because in my district, I need 5. So I'm not understanding that.
I'd say a couple of things. First of all, you know, one of the issues that we've actually, you know, in addition to the parking that you discussed, the bulk of the building is actually something which we've looked at as well. This building is going to be 102 feet tall. The R7A zoning, which exists adjacent to this property, can go up to 95 feet. So we're able to keep this building relatively low. It's only 7 feet taller than the R7A, which already exists on a portion of the property. The push and pull of that is that if you are trying to keep a building, which, you know, in the existing R6A, you can go to 75 feet. In the existing R7A, you can go to 95 feet. To keep it to 102 feet and to keep it within this bulk and to provide additional affordability is a challenge. Were we able to rezone to a more robust district, we probably would, you know, obviously have the opportunity and more flexibility to provide those additional units. But again, you know, we're doing the best we can with what we have in an area which doesn't get affordable units really at all. But with regards to the unit breakdown, council member, we have had the opportunity to revisit that. We reduced the number of studios and increased the number of 1 and 2 bedrooms. So we've gone from 7 studios, 52 1 bedrooms, and 26 2 bedrooms. So now we're at, we increased the number of 2 bedrooms. We reduced the studios from 7 to 2, and we increased the 2 bedrooms from 26 to 31. So we have had the opportunity to get the unit sizes up a little bit. And you know, one of the things that was one of the things that was requested by everyone along the way.
Okay. Did you opt not to apply for city subsidy for this project?
Yeah, we did. I think that there's an opportunity either to go all in and to seek city subsidies or not. And this was a project where, given the existing commercial on the ground floor and the fact that we didn't necessarily want to be limited with regards to the availability of the envelope and what we wanted to do with that food store, Tony basically decided to do this, you know, with the not subsidizing it and to do it out of his own pocket, if you will.
Yeah, I get it, but I think that it doesn't allow, you know, the flexibility of also reconsidering the affordability aspect of this project, which I think is really instrumental. And a 90-year-old building, I'm pretty sure that it needs a lot of upgrading, and I can appreciate the need for redevelopment, but you know, we have a responsibility to ensure that we are creating, you know, as many units as possible. So thank you so much. This is very informative.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Ayala. Council, do we have any other council members that have any questions?
Chair, I see no additional members with hands for this panel.
Great, thank you. There being no further questions, the applicant panel is excused. Council, are there any members of the public who wish to testify on this application?
Yes, Chair, there are approximately 20 public witnesses registered to speak.
Thank you.
For members of the public here to testify, please note again that witnesses will be called in groups of 4. If you are a member of the public who has signed up to testify on the 1620 Road rezoning proposal, please stand by and listen for your name to be called. and be prepared to speak when the chair says that we may begin. Please also note that once all panelists in your group have completed their testimony, you will be removed from the meeting as a group, and the next group of speakers will be introduced. After you have completed your testimony and your group has been removed, you may continue to view the live stream broadcast of this hearing at the council's website. We will now hear from the first panel, which will be Harriet Hines, followed by Harry Bubbins, Eileen McGill, and John Oros. The first speaker will be Harriet Hines.
Your time starts now.
Just a quick reminder, members of the public, you will be given 2 minutes to speak. Please do not begin until the Sergeant at Arms has started the clock. Harriet, you may begin whenever you're ready.
Okay. It's saddened me to see how we have come to this point. The people of this community have cried out to their elected officials, and our cries have landed on deaf ears. We have been deliberately denied our voice and forced to silence by not being informed of the details of this project in a timely manner. We are now resorted to having to beg just for a life of normalcy and relief from greed of capitalists. Like Custer's last stand, we have coined today as our community's last chance to save Cortelyou. As it is a fact of life that sometimes you win some and sometimes you lose some. Saving Cortelyou means to preserve our contextual district, an area where we are free from towers, where we can actually see the sky, we can breathe and be free from noise pollution, and where there are no worries of overcrowding. To save Cortelyou means that existing structures will remain intact. Homeowners will not face the threat of being priced out as we pay enough into taxes already. We will not be forced to see the people that work at the stores that served us suffer from lack of employment and loss of business. With demolition comes an increase of rodents, so to save Cortelyou will alleviate the threat of that. The character of our neighborhood will be preserved through the landmarking of buildings that capture periods in time that are recorded and valued in history books. Some have said that people represent character and not buildings. I can say that I agree that the character of people can be shown by what they do not value: architecture, improved quality of life, and human bliss. To put a neighborhood through all of this for the sake
Time
of...
expired.
Hello? To
Harriet,
put a...
if you can wrap it up, I'll give you a couple of extra seconds here.
Okay, well, I would say one, that as Brooklynites, we show our love for Brooklyn when we beautify it by cleaning streets and green spaces. We now will have to show our love for our borough in June and November 2021, when we have more than 30 days to vote to save Brooklyn. I'm asking for Councilman Eugene to please vote no for the upzoning of Cortelyou Road. And just one other thing, Mr. Dola, when you consider the hiring process, when you build your supermarket, if you would please hire...
Thank you, Harriet. Thank you so much for your testimony today. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Harry Bubbins, who will be followed by Eileen McGill.
Your time starts now.
Wait, let's just start the clock real quick. Hi, Harry, before we begin, just want to let you know, like, signs are not permitted here. So even though you have that on your screen, we don't allow that during the hearings. If you can take it off, fine. If not, we'll just keep going, but it's just a reminder for everyone. Thank you.
Okay, sure. Thank you. That's in keeping. This remote ULURP hearing is undemocratic and potentially a violation of law. You just heard another reason. We oppose this luxury upzoning, which is really for the entire block, and that total impact has not been studied. The landlord is part of a supermarket magnate family with the finances and margins and judgment to have reportedly bought a condo in one of Trump's towers and who has paid a lobbyist to push this scheme since 2016. The rendering you saw today with the rooftop party areas was never even shown to the local community until today. They also evaded answering if there are any unionized jobs there now or in the future. The property does have 36 open violations, 5 barrels of chemicals, 1 stop work order, and 0 hiring plans. Is that a nice neighbor? Upzonings in the de Blasio era from Gowanus to Flatbush are massive scams that result in out-of-scale development and vastly increased amounts of luxury housing. Mr. Eugene, reject this scheme and at least have a Brooklyn Zoom background. This block was part of the recent Flatbush rezoning with an overall increase in allowable FAR. Cortelyou Road is a unique, eclectic strip of predominantly independent small businesses, and it was rezoned to R6A as part of that in-depth planning to protect its economic vitality and scale. To erase all that work to gain approval for a luxury upzoning is wrong. The landlord can build a very sizable 100% affordable housing development as of right, up to 75 feet. 1921 Cortelyou Road down the block is 100% affordable. So is Caton Flats. Here, they want to build 87% larger than allowed to increase the private profits. We need landmarking protections for buildings like the Flatbush Saving Banks. We don't need spot luxury upzonings like this. Thank you.
The next speaker will be Eileen McGill, who will be followed by John Oros.
Your time starts now.
Hi. Hello.
Hi, whenever
Hi.
you're ready.
Okay, I have some notes. So I'm the president of the Beverly Square East Block Association. We completely buttress up against that part of Cortelyou Road. We are not anti-development, but we are against this development. And we kind of want to make it clear that everyone's acting like Tony is this benevolent person doing such good for the neighborhood. I've shopped at his store for 20 years. I do not know Tony. I know every single other employee. His employees are terrified. They have no idea what's going on. They don't know if they're going to have jobs in the future. Our association has had to organize cleanup days to clean his block because he does not. He does not give to any team, sport, school. He's not even a member of the local merchant, the Cortelyou Road Merchant Association, which all of my friends are, and they pay their $300 a year dues, which pays for the garbage cleanup on Cortelyou Road, which does not happen, but Tony doesn't contribute to that. So Ditmas Park was formerly the most diverse neighborhood in the country. Families that are economically insecure and cannot advocate for themselves, we are here to represent them. Families have been pushed out of this neighborhood for years now. There's serious food insecurity. If this above zone building goes through, Cortelyou Road, just like everything else this developer is cherry picking in Brooklyn, will quickly become a high-rise corridor. The only affordable grocery, the nearby, and laundromat, which will be displaced, will be 6 blocks away. And as far as affordable, during the pandemic, a bottle of Prego was $9 in Tony's store. So please stop saying it's affordable. Everyone I know has had to gather and go to other neighborhoods to shop. Many residents and small businesses are barely surviving this pandemic, and this will further marginalize my neighborhood and all of the families in it. Please do not allow this upzoning. Cortelyou Road will quickly become a high-rise corridor. Please don't do that to our neighborhood.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony.
The next and last speaker on this panel will be John Oros.
Thank you. Oh, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm sure you're going to be hearing from a lot more of my neighbors and community members saying a lot of the same things, which I'm about to say, which is that there is a really strong community opposition to this project. You know, there's a lot of reasons that will be mentioned, including not adequate affordable housing. But one part that I would just like to implore the city council members to really consider is just the out of scale scope and how unnecessary this is for the stated goals that the developers and applicants are pushing forward. I've read, and I think just to prove how engaged the community is, that we're reading into all the different commission, what the borough president has said. He actually called out in his report that he does not agree that that it is necessary for this large upzoning to R7D. So I would just really put it on the land use committee to really consider this seriously. It is up to 87% taller height and not adequate affordable housing to allow it. And for all the other reasons that the community has shared, we are opposed to it. And I just would like to make a finer note as a community member listening in through this whole ULURP process, starting with the community board, which I wasn't aware of when it was in front of the community board, but having the community board join on the record meetings with CPC and say that there was confusion on the community board level when this was pushed through. I just think this needs to be rejected outright and have the applicant, go back and reapply, because along the way, we are just picking up more and more community involvement about this. And it's really interesting to listen to the other applicants that were on board today and hear all the community support that's out there for projects that you guys are voting on. And I don't think that there are going to be nearly the amount of support from our community. In fact, it'll be the exact opposite, phosphorus opposition to this this development that is rooted in greed and not in the community's best interests. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony today. Is that the last of our panel, Council?
Yes, Chair. That's the last speaker on this panel.
Is there any council members that have any questions for this panel?
I see no members with raised hands for this panel.
Okay, there being no more questions for this panel, the witness panel is now excused. And Council, if you can please call up the next panel. Thank you all for your testimony today.
The next panel includes Anthony Finkel and juniors. First speaker will be Anthony Finkel.
Your time starts now.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
1 second. I just want to get my comments together. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Anthony Finkel. I've been a resident of Ditmas Park for over 30 years, and I operate a small business in this community. For the last 2 years, I've also served on the board of directors for the Cortellia Road Merchants Association. So I can tell you firsthand that Mr. Tony has contributed to the association financially and physically by doing actual work and participating in our events. I'm voicing my support for Mr. Tony and the upzoning of 1620 Cortellia Road, as Mr. Tony has owned and operated the Key Food for almost 30 years and has been an active member in the community. After speaking with him, I feel very confident about the upzoning. Upzoning would add at least 20 new affordable housing units to Cortellia Road, which we desperately need. Approving the upzoning would ensure that 1620 Cortellia will remain in the hands of someone who's already been investing in the community for the past 30 years, rather than giving it to a private developer who could do whatever he chooses. The new apartment units will benefit young families by providing them with an opportunity to move into the area instead of pushing young families away who may not be able to afford to purchase the $1 million Victorian homes in our community. The new apartment building and its inhabitants will increase business activity at the local shops, the restaurants, and the bars in the area. This increased business activity is good for Cortellia Road and for Ditmas Park. Finally, I believe that Mr. Tony has proven that he is receptive to the community's needs and wants. Mr. Tony has demonstrated this by adding 20 additional affordable housing units while performing the construction in phases as to keep the supermarket open and available to the public throughout the development. Mr. Tony also did not have to go about construction this way. Okay, thank you.
Next and last speaker on this panel will be juniors.
Your time starts now.
You may begin whenever you're ready.
Does take a little additional time for telephone witnesses. It does seem as though we're having a technical issue with Junior's audio. We will attempt to come back to that speaker in a subsequent panel. And for now, that will conclude this panel.
Okay. Are there any council members that have any questions for this panel?
No, Chair, I see no members with raised hands for this panel.
Okay, there being no more questions for this witness panel, this panel is now excused. Council, can you please call up the next panel?
The next panel includes Johanna Neufeld, Haley Newthals, Gabriel Cosman Alter, and Cassandra Jean-Pierre. First speaker will be Johanna Neufeld, followed by Haley Newthals.
Your time starts now.
Hello?
Oh, got a little echo there.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Okay, sorry about that.
No problem.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for taking the time to talk with us about this issue. My name is Johanna. I live around the corner from the proposed site, and our building does have a prepared statement, which one of my neighbors is going to be reading. But in addition to that statement, I just want to note a couple of things that Mr. Lobel said that I believe are dishonest and a little misleading. Right now, we know that the current building site already has one violation. They did begin the demolition process, which we can see from our building, and the Department of Buildings did do a stop work order. It has since been removed, and I believe they have continued demolition. But you know, if people are already having issues and saying that there's something improper going on, I can only imagine what's going to happen when the big building begins to actually go up. As to their outreach, there are many of us who have been asking for more information. You know, we've talked to many members of the community, and people really don't know what's going on. It's also really misleading to say that they've been doing community outreach. People in the neighborhood don't want their supermarket to be gone. They don't know where they're going to shop for 2 years. So to say that they've been, you know, negotiating with the community is just inaccurate. Lastly, I just also want to say that while it is an improvement to decrease the number of studios from 7 to 2, that this property is not here for low-income community members. It is here to make money for Mr. Tony. I believe that that is what all of his commercial endeavors are for, and that's fine, but it is also misleading to say that this is for the community, that it's going to benefit most of the people here. You know, if you talk about 10% of the 25% of the building, that's really only 2 or 3 apartments. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony today.
The next speaker will be Haley Newthals, followed by Gabriel Cosman Alter.
Your time starts now.
Only
thank you to the subcommittee and Chair Moya and the remaining guests here. Thanks for your time. My name is Haley Newthals. I'm speaking on my own behalf and on behalf of the local organization Flatbush Workers United, which has been organizing alongside the group Safe Curtailio in opposition to this rezoning. For the reasons that have been stated by my fellow neighbors and community members previously, and in addition to what I'm about to say, I am speaking in opposition to this proposal, both because of its intentional dishonesty and its overall lack of proven benefit for the committee or for the community. Pardon me. As the legal counsel Richard Lobel noted, this developer has had many conversations with politicians like Councilmember Eugene, the local community board, and even the borough president's office. As my fellow citizens have noted, however, there has been a stark contrast in the amount of outreach to the community itself, which includes at our public school, PS 249, over 30 languages spoken. So outreach really does need to be comprehensive in order to have any sort of semblance of being enough to say you've got the public's support or input on this. So the outreach has been a massive issue. We've had a lot of issues trying to have our voices heard in this matter, including technical issues with various meetings, and particularly during the COVID crisis, online meetings are simply really inaccessible for a large portion of our community members. So this is, I think, as others have stated, this entire process does need to be revisited. Concerns have also, I will now speak to a few more specific issues. Concerns have been brought regarding the staged construction of this building. We've heard repeatedly that there are promises to either keep businesses on this property open or have them be relocated during the construction so they can continue. And we know they can't do that with the underground parking. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley. Thank you for your testimony.
Next speaker will be Gabriel Kausman-Alter, who will be followed by Cassandra Jean-Pierre.
Your time starts now.
Thank you very much, committee members. Speaking on behalf of the board of East 17th Street Corporation, we oppose the project in its current form. This project's massing and plans as shown in the EAS are not accurate. Bulkhead is missing, dead-end corridors at plus 80 feet, and the site plan has inaccuracies with regard to distance to 400 East 17th Street. That means window-to-window distances of 40 feet, not complying with ZR 23-711. The massing at the rear will have small lot line windows and added costs for required opening protectives per BB 2015-17. The massing is presented as speculative, so where will non-conforming bulk be relocated to max out the FAR? The proposed zoning R7D has a height limit of 115 feet, so approval of the upzoning could lead to an even higher building than presented without carefully crafted stipulations. Our residents at the rear will lose all views as we would with an AOR development, but with the potential new height and bulkhead, we'll also lose light. Lastly, we are seeking to increase our energy efficiency with a solar panel array. Solar panels or green roof would be required for a roof replacement under BB 2019-010. The upzoning has the potential to partly overshadow our roof, which creates a major conflict if we are required to add solar, may affect our grade letter, and will reducing emissions allowances, will we incur fines in the future? Some items we would like to see. It would be preferable if the building used 15 feet for the ground floor retail, which is in line with a residential double switchback stair, instead of 20 feet, and 9 feet 8-inch floor to floor instead of 10 feet for residential floors. Parapets should be glass. The elevator could be MRL instead of traction to reduce the bulkhead, but this only gets us so far. Ideally, we believe the massing should be reduced at least a floor below 75 feet at the western edge and a series of step terraces created to a peak on the east where the core bulkhead should be moved. If the developer picks up the eastern lots now or in the future, this would allow a central core which is more efficient. We believe that a step massing, if articulated well, will allow for a breakdown of the steep street wall, more in keeping with the context. We look forward to seeing a viable proposal and massing that addresses the concerns of residents of 400 East 17th Street Co-op and that of the community at large. And that's from our board president, Mr. Timothy Subweeks.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you, Gabriel, for your testimony.
Welcome.
The next and last speaker on this panel will be Cassandra Jean-Pierre.
Your time starts now.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us on this. As a lifelong resident of Ditmas Park, I oppose to the proposed upzoning of Corsellia Road. As I said, a lifelong resident. I have never before this meeting seen Mr. Tony at any Corsellia event. So again, Councilman Eugene, I'm begging you to please vote no for the 1620 Corsellia Road upzoning. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cassandra, for your testimony today. Council, do we have any council members who have any questions for the panel?
Chair, I see no members with questions for this panel.
Thank you. There being no more questions for this panel, the witness panel is now excused. And Council, if you can please call up the next panel.
The next panel includes Cecilia Cortez, Stacy Shub, Blake Morris, and Whitney Payne. The first speaker will be Cecilia Cortez, followed by Stacy Shub.
Your time starts now.
And we'll now hear from Cecilia Cortez, followed by Stacy Shub.
Your time starts now.
Here. Hello, how are you? Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, hi, how are you? My name is Cecilia Cortez. I thank you for letting me speak. I'm speaking on my own behalf. I'm speaking against this project because this project will create more crowdedness into our neighborhood, and it will cut the lights, and the subway also will be much more crowded, and there are no there will be many more people in the neighborhood, and there is no protections for there will be one of the tallest building in the neighborhood. We have tried for 30 years to bring landmark to the neighborhood, protecting. We have a very nice neighborhood that it has a neighborhood, it has business that are owned by people, and people shop every day, they walk in the streets, and bringing this big building, the only thing it will be is displace current people who live there, who can afford it, because the prices that are going to be are not affordable for people who are living in the community. And I oppose this building. I don't think that it should be allowed, this upzoning. It was already, the upzoning was changed already in 2009. We don't need big buildings. What we need is to use the current buildings that are, we have buildings in the neighborhood that are empty because they cannot be afforded by people in the neighborhood. And we still planning to bring big buildings. It's time to stop that. Please don't allow this building to be developed. Thank you.
Next speaker will be Stacy Shub, who will be followed by Blake Morris.
Your time starts now.
Do we have Stacy?
We do have Stacy. She is in the meeting. Give this just a few more seconds to sort out the audio.
Okay. Oh. Okay.
Okay, maybe we come back to Stacy, and could we hear from Blake Morris?
Your time starts now.
Hi, I'm Blake Morris. I am a neighbor of this proposed ULURP application, and I oppose this project. There are numerous objections that you've heard, and you'll subsequently hear from me. I mean, from others after they speak from me. But I'm talking about the increased residential density at this location, the adjacent subway station at Cortelia Road on the Brighton line. Q line service, the Broadway Express, within 300 feet of the proposed project, is incapable of absorbing any increase in residential density at this location on Cortelia Road or in the immediate 10-block radius of the subway station. The station has extremely narrow platforms, operates at overcapacity during rush hour. Due to the nature of the layout of this station and open cut, there's no mitigation measures that are possible. And either reasonable or unreasonable mitigation. It's just not possible at all. And it's also only a sole narrow staircase that accesses each platform. An increase in residential density would lead directly to increased rush hour subway use, will be the proximate cause of a passenger fatality or injury. No increase in residential density is possible at this location. I'm asking that the project that the application be denied in its entirety, that the applicants can use their 2009 upzoning increase that everyone else on the street had received. And also we have the problem of consistency. There is a drugstore and the Flatbush Food Co-op, which is within 500 feet of the project. And if this ULURP is approved, those two other properties can make the same application, and they will not be able to be denied as a matter of law since they are similarly situated. Thank you for your time.
We will next hear from Whitney Payne. And then we will hear from Stacy Shub.
Your time starts now.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for allowing the public to participate in this land use meeting. I have been living in Ditmas Park for the last 18 plus years. And coming from the real estate side of things, I am a proponent for people to be able to renovate and build and develop. However, I'm also a proponent for neighborhood consistency. And throughout the years, I've seen, whether it's in Harlem, Brooklyn, or where have you, there's not been consistency when people come to develop. And having this already have been passed, as they said back in 2009, to be an R6 zone, they can continue to do their developing in that same zone, and it does not have to be upzoned to R7. So I would like to implore our council member, Mr. Eugene, to vote against this upzoning in its current form. As the gentleman spoke from 400 East 17th Street, that with changes, the development can move forward. And those changes more affect some others than others in this neighborhood. But crowding is going to be an issue, and all kinds of other things that my neighbors have already spoke about during this entire process. So and the problem that we did say earlier was that no one was able to get in early to bring these things to bear at the community board level. And so now that we are here now, let us go back and begin again with the proper architectural design that meets everyone's needs, the developer's needs and the community's needs together. Thank you and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
And we will now hear from Stacy Shub, who will be the last speaker on this panel.
Your time starts now.
Thank you. Sorry for the technological problems before.
All right.
Much of what I wanted to address has already been said. So for the sake of time, I'll just let you know that although I don't live in the area, I do visit. I request the application be denied. We can't handle additional density here, especially as someone who has used the subways. I can just attest to the fact that the system is woefully inadequate to handle more commuters. So thank you for listening.
Thank you. Thank you, Stacy, for your testimony. Council, do we have any council members that have any questions for the witness panel?
No, Chair, I see no members with questions for this panel.
Okay, seeing none, this witness panel is now excused. Council, if you can please call up the next panel.
The next panel includes Megan DeMarcus, Josu Pierre, and Rita Joseph. The first speaker on the next panel will be Megan DeMarcus, followed by Josu Pierre.
Your time starts now.
Hi, thank you so much for inviting me. My name is Megan DeMarcus. I'm the parent coordinator at PS 139, which is the school that's local to this project. I want to share a quick story. I was just visiting a family at 1610 Cortelliu next door. The entire family has COVID-19 and they needed thermometers, gloves, masks, Lysol wipes. I went to drop that off. I will tell you that the intercom doesn't work, that the door is covered in graffiti, the front door doesn't lock. And when the family came downstairs to open the door to receive the package from me, I could see that the hallway was full of garbage and that the light in the hallway also didn't work. That is adjacent to two buildings that are two businesses that have been closed and renovating for, I don't know, years. So I think that the developer's comment about this being a clean street with no violations isn't true. I also bring up this story to illustrate who lives in our community. The family that I was delivering supplies to, they are not a family who would be eligible for affordable housing. They're a family that is in need of low-income housing, and that is true of most of the families within our community. PS 139 is a Title I school. 70% of the families are at or below the poverty line. If this project is to serve our community, it must have low-income housing units. This is something we've illustrated to Councilman Eugene, and he agrees. He knows the community well. I expect that he will vote no to this proposal and will stand with the community in asking that the owner and the developers and the financiers go back to the drawing board to develop a project that would serve this community. We are in need of green space, and we are sorely in need of a youth or community development center to assist families within our community. So yes, there are Victorian houses in this community. I've been here for 15 years. My family has been here for over 40 years and can tell you firsthand that this is a neighborhood that serves families. I will also say that in this process, this is probably my 12th meeting on this particular topic. I started going to these meetings 4 years ago before the community board, and everyone has spoken in opposition to this project except for Mr. Finkel, who I think was on today. So this is definitely a project that has zero community support. We know what our
Thank
community—
you, Megan. Thank you so much for your testimony today.
That's it.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next speaker on this panel will be Josu Pierre, who will be followed by Rita Joseph.
Your time starts now.
Good afternoon. My name is Joseph Pierre. You can call me Josh. I'm a Flatbush resident and affordable housing activist, a former financial analyst at the New York City Comptroller's Office, where my job was investing pension money into affordable housing, where we use a number of subsidies to achieve that. I'm here today in opposition to the currently proposed upzoning of the entire block facing Cortelli Road between East 16th and East 17th Street. I second many of the statements that were made in opposition before me, and I ask that the plan be voted down and taken back to the drawing board so that we could have a more equitable plan going forward. The focus of any development project seeking upzoning, especially in a district where affordable housing is a major issue, should be prioritizing increasing the number of affordable units throughout. And you have to do that through a robust engagement process that puts community members at the center and not after the fact. This is absolutely not an affordable housing project. This is a luxury project with some sprinkling of affordable housing. 10% of the units would be for 40% of at 40% of AMI. That's basically all we're really getting for all of what is being asked of us in terms of the rezoning and the changes being made to the community. The number of affordable units simply do not justify the number of incoming luxury units, which would lead to a domino effect of having more and more of these style buildings come in and completely exacerbate the displacement and gentrification situation that we already see in the Flatbush-Ditmas Park area. I heard it was mentioned earlier that the owners are not pursuing subsidies. Having worked with those types of subsidies to create affordable housing across the city already, I can tell you anyone who's not really looking at that is indicating that their priority has not been affordable housing. And so to have this being presented as some type of affordable housing project that benefits our community is absolutely a farce. Now, I talked about the domino effect. Anytime you've seen a project like this come forth in a community, you can look at Franklin Avenue in Crown Heights, you can look at it has had the effect of increasing these types of developments. So I urge the council, the subcommittee, Matthew, Jean, our council member, and our community members be heard, and that we do not move forward with this project, and we instead get it vote no, and also have it redrawn and brought back.
Thank you so much for your testimony today. Thank you.
Next and last speaker on this panel will be Rita Joseph.
Your time starts now.
Thank you. Good afternoon. As a member of this community for more than 20 years, I feel deeply that an obligation to oppose this proposed upzoning of 1620. The current proposal is an arbitrary to rezoning that is a plot of land that was previously upzoned as part of the larger 2009 Flatbush rezoning. That rezoning has a significant amount of community input. This proposed rezoning does not. Additionally, this proposal does not provide the affordable housing unit that our neighborhood needs. Our neighborhood in Central Brooklyn are already at risk of being gentrified. I fear that the proposed project being completed would only accelerate the affordability crisis in our neighborhood. We are already facing a shortage of affordable housing supplies throughout Brooklyn as proposed currently. This project would not help matters. Lastly and significantly, the proposal will take away the only laundromat in the neighborhood which services the entire community. I urge the council subcommittee to oppose this upcoming upzoning. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Rita. Thank you for your testimony today.
Thank you.
Council, do we have any council members that have any questions for this panel?
Chair, I see no members with questions for this panel.
Okay, there being no more questions for this panel, this witness panel is now excused. And council, can you call up the next panel, please?
The next panel will include Robert Elstein. Robert Elstein.
Your time.
Hello, I'm here. Present. May I speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry,
Thank
when
you.
you're ready, Robert. Yep.
Okay.
Robert? Did we lose Robert?
I don't believe that we've lost him. I see him in the meeting. Okay, I think he's coming in. Robert Elstein will be the next speaker.
Robert, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, just plugging in.
Whenever you're ready.
And now, okay, I'm ready. Okay. Okay, I was just walking around outside. I was just on the block of 1620 Cortelliu, and it's really such an inappropriate proposal. The character of this neighborhood is one that retains that of old New York. It's a really enjoyable, wonderful place to walk around. It's a wonderful place to go shopping, to go to a cafe, to eat in a restaurant. I've lived in this neighborhood for 42 years, and it's maintained the character that it's had since it was first developed in the early 20th century. From a preservation standpoint, this proposal is absolutely ludicrous. From an environmental standpoint, it's murderous. The way that ULURP is designed to have absolutely no consideration for the environmental impact is, in my mind, really unethical and immoral. I will also say that there needs to be a change to ULURP in terms of the AMI. It is the intent of ULURP was to create affordable housing for families. All that's happened as a result of ULURP is 1-bedroom and studio apartments at or above market rate because of the way that it's tied to AMI. Until ULURP is reformed, we need to seriously consider whether we can go forward with any of these developments. And that's the end of my testimony, and I thank you all for your time.
Thank you, Robert. Thank you for your testimony today.
We have an additional speaker, an additional witness for this panel. The next speaker on this panel will be Avi Glickstein. Avi Glickstein.
Your time starts now.
Hey, Avi, you have to unmute yourself. Hold on.
Hi, I'm sorry. I thought I was registering to be in the meeting and not actually speak, but I do oppose the project and I support, I'm a parent at PS 139. And I know, I'll say what I said at the meeting where they were at the prior meeting, which is that this is a community, there are 30 languages spoken at our school. It's a Title I school, as Megan said, our parent coordinator. And there's extreme food insecurity in the neighborhood. There is a food pantry on Coney Island Avenue and Foster Avenue a little further down, which was profiled in the New York Times Daily podcast because it's has 1,000 people every week lining up because of the pandemic. There's another group called People in Need that serves people. It's just, this is not a neighborhood that needs upzoning or luxury apartments. There's a building at one end of Cortelyou Road that was renovated from a former site that lay dormant for a long time that is now is empty. There's one at the other end that was just developed, which seems to also be empty or continues to be empty. So we don't need more one-bedroom apartments. The fact that this is a majority one-bedroom apartment development, let alone going above the zoning level. I'm not opposed, as many other people are, to development. It's just, this is not, as Megan said, we need low-income housing, and we don't need to push the limit so that other developers can come in here and create a canyon. I grew up in Miami Beach, where we had something called Condo Canyon down one of our streets down Collins Avenue, and I don't want Cortelyou Road to become that, where there's no sunlight and there's no air flow because it's surrounded by tall towers. I mean, it's ridiculous. But thank you very much, and Councilmember Eugene. Please vote against this. I know you've given some money to the school. This would be even more impactful for the community than any money you could give to the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony, Avi.
Chair, the next speaker in the hearing is Junior Junior. Junior Junior.
Your time starts now.
I know we had some issues with Junior Junior access earlier. I'm going to see if we can get them in here a few more seconds.
While we wait for Junior to come on, I just want to give everyone a reminder as well that if you would like to submit your written testimony, you may email it to landusetestimony@council.nyc.gov.
Okay, it appears that we have lost Junior Junior. So that is a timely reminder. And that concludes this panel, Chair. And at this time, if I may, we'll do a last call for any outstanding public witnesses.
Okay.
If there are any members of the public who wish to testify on the 1620 Cortelyou Road rezoning proposal, please press the raise hand button now. The meeting will now briefly stand at ease while we check and confirm for members of the public. Chair, we're going to try again with Junior Junior. It appears that they've been able to rejoin. So if we can get testimony from Junior Junior at this time. Okay, apologies for that. We do have another public speaker. I'm going to ask that the unidentified phone caller with a number ending 6182 be permitted to testify? We have a phone-in caller with a number ending 6182.
Your time starts
Hi, this
now.
is Ilana. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, guys. I'm Ilana. I'm a local resident and small business owner. I'm here to say that we do not need to choose between being pro-growth and pro-community. However, in this case, this project is pro-growth and anti-community. I am from Save Cortelyou, a group that has been advocating for community first and consensus-based thoughtful development based on the outcome of our community board meeting and the hundreds of people that we enjoyed talking to on the street that were against this. This group and I and many others who spoke are part of a coalition of 250 working parents, social workers, teachers, senior citizens, college students, urban planners, and small business owners. We started 2 months ago having teach-ins, Zoom parties on telling people what AMI, MIH, and FAR is. We have full-time jobs and we have to go toe-to-toe with Richard Lobel and his team. We have the people and they have the power. And I appreciate you listening to us. I'll touch on one point specifically on food excess and jobs. I'd like to underscore that the supermarket was one of the major reasons for the neighborhood coalescing around support and why our community board voted for it. However, to be a good neighbor, you must take care of your people and you must tell the truth. Tony is not a good neighbor. We have no plan for what will happen to the employees, 100 plus employees that will be out of a job that work at the laundromat and the grocery store for 18 months to 2 years during the excavation of 44 parking spaces. To repeat, the supermarket will not be open, and this is one of the reasons why the community supported it. I implore you, based on your discussion, to please make any community benefit binding and to understand that the developer has not acted in good faith since the beginning. I'm here to ask you to reject this upzoning to R7D and ask for a better project to come forth and for the developer to talk to us and to restart again without restarting the cycle, the ULURP cycle. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony today. Council, do we have any other members of the public?
Chair, it does appear that we may have one additional speaker to testify. Is individual identified as Baruch Wiseman here and wishing to testify? Baruch Wiseman.
Your time starts now.
Can you hear me? Hi, good afternoon. I appreciate your allowing me to give a quick comment. The area is already densely overpopulated relative to the rest of the community board district 14. And most of the concentration of high-rise apartment buildings are along the corridor of Ocean Avenue and the northwest corner. And there's already been a tremendous strain on the public infrastructure by allowing excess development rather than distributing the developers throughout the remainder of the district. We're overloading already the crumbling infrastructure. The walls of the subway station are crumbling. The platforms are narrow. The public schools are overcrowded over their allotted density. So these are just a couple of examples of poor community board planning, because the remainder, the 3/5 of the district of community board 14 are comprised of low-rise housing, 1 and 2 single or 2-family homes. And most of the new development has been concentrated in this corner of Dismas Park. So I think that we should adopt a different attitude as in Minneapolis, where they actually created public housing in low-rise density portions of the districts in the various neighborhoods, and it's turned into a tremendous success in allowing de facto integration rather than de facto segregation, which is still being maintained by this policy of this community board and throughout the remainder of the community boards in New York City. Thank you for allowing me to share my comment.
Thank you for your testimony today. We appreciate it very much. Council, do we have any other members of the public that wish to testify?
Chair Moya, with that, I see no additional members of the public who wish to testify on this item.
Great. Okay, thank you. There being no members of the public who wish to testify on the 620 Cartel Road rezoning proposal under ULURP numbers C180496 ZMK and N180497 ZRK. The public hearing is now closed and the item is laid over. That concludes today's business. I would like to thank the members of the public, my colleagues, the subcommittee council, land use, and other council staff, and the Sergeant at Arms for participating in today's meeting. Thank you. This meeting